Hello, I'm Paul.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome to the Film Busters podcast. The film show with no filters, no prisoners taken, loads of disagreements, but one hell of a love for cinema.
If you want to hear three friends ridiculing each other for an hour or so regarding their taste in films, then you have come to the right place.
In each episode, one of the team picks a film for us to discuss. It could be anything from a recent cinema release to an all-time classic.
So, strap in and get ready to get mad or get vindicated as we guide you through the murky world of being a film geek.
If you like what you hear, you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram using @FilmbustersPod. You can also find each of our individual accounts. I'm at Filmbusters Paul.
I'm at Filmbusters Adam.
And I'm at Filmbusters Ben.
If you want to use your eyes instead of your ears, you can also visit the website at filmbusterspod.co.uk.
And if busting makes you feel good, you can also support us at patreon.com/filmbusters for exclusive content.
Or shoot over and get some groovy merchandise at society6.com/filmbusters.
Alright, can we just get on with this now, please?
Filmbusters.
Jamie, how has your 2022 been so far?
It's been pretty good. I can't complain. Managed to squeeze in a couple of really interesting films. I'll be revealing them later on. Christmas decks are down. And,
oh dear, straight away, you've got them down
already.
Yeah,
need to.
Are you all still up then, Ben?
Oh yeah, because the date that you bring the decks down is 6th, isn't it?
No, they have to be down by the 6th.
That's okay, I'll cling on to the last minute.
Oh, I took mine down yesterday.
Listeners, we're recording this on the 4th. Jamie and Adam can't wait to get the Christmas decorations down.
And still holding on to every shred of hope.
Well, listen, the decorations make me feel alive. I can look over there, I can see my Christmas tree glowing. I can see the cards strung up. Tree? No, of course not.
Well, if you have an autistic child who loves to throw herself at Christmas trees and wrestle with the baubles, etc.,
you get that tree down as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
Yeah, who can blame you? Who can blame you? Listeners, as you may realise...
I want to wrestle the Christmas tree as well, though.
There you go. Well, yes, quite.
You never seen a Christmas tree and just want to rugby tackle it?
Yeah, it's just like that scene in Gremlins.
Exactly. Listeners, of course, Happy New Year first of all to you. First episode of 2022, and immediately we're a man down.
Yes, we're a man up.
Yes, we're a man up and a man down. But where is Paul, Adam?
Paul is still struggling with COVID. It's hit him hard. He thought we'd be back by now, but...
I'm not sure whether I should take this personally or not, because the last 2 records now...
You're right.
Something has happened.
But it was COVID. It was COVID last time, essentially.
Both times.
Who was it last time?
Well, with The Vanishing, when we did The Vanishing, I didn't have COVID, but I'd had the jab, and it had knocked me on my arse. And so we were going to record that day, but because I'd had the jab, I wanted it before I was going to Scotland. So we then had to push back The Vanishing by like 3 weeks because I was in Scotland for 2.5 weeks.
I remember that now.
I had to rewatch it.
So, Adam, you're next.
I know. Well, touch wood. I almost missed out the Julio record last one, but we made it.
You did. But we wish Paul all the best. He's on the tail end of it now. He'll be back with us in the next episode. But for now, you've got to make do with the dulcet tones of Jamie Russell, who you're all very well acquainted with now, I am sure. Yes. Jamie, how many episodes you've been with us on now? This your third?
This is my third, yeah.
Is it your third?
Yes, third. Just Burn After Reading, then it was Vanishing, and now what we're about to discuss.
Yes, exactly, listeners, and that will be revealed very, very soon. So, listen.
Don't they already know?
Well, yes, that's true. They do know it's RoboCop, yeah, because they clicked on the title. It's sitting right there in their podcast player now.
We mentioned at the end of our last one. It was a longer podcast, and not everyone probably made it to the end. But
I know.
I thought I was building up some sort of anticipation.
We can build it up, Jamie. We'll build it up.
I know. I try and build it up. See, I'm not the podcast host. It's Paul. It's falling apart without you already, Paul. Look, even my light over here is going off. Come on, put that back on. Right. So, yes, Jamie Russell was with us. You know him. We know him. We love him. You know that he's full of good information. So today's recording is going to be very, very interesting indeed. But before we get to all of that stuff, let's give a little shout out to all our other patrons. Jamie is a patron. Of course he is. There's many, many benefits when you join us. You can come on the podcast if you so wish, much like Jamie. You can return every 6 rounds. You can get merchandise. You can send us what you've been watching. We'll shout it all out. We give you many things. Or little things, depending on what you want. You can get an assortment of things. There's a collection of people that we have on board. Who do we have on board first, Adam?
We have Katie and OT from the For Your Reference podcast.
Excellent. Jamie, who else we got?
New Patreon. Oh, I can say, well, he's not new now, but he's going to be established very soon. We have Luke Human.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It feels like he's been a patron for so long because we're so familiar with him over here. We also have Philip Barantini, director of Boiling Point, my favourite film of 2021.
I'm going to see that tomorrow night with a Q&A from him as well.
So am I.
Are you?
Yes.
At 7 o'clock?
Or
was yours half 7?
I think it's 7:15. It's certainly around by the time. Yeah.
Oh,
Where are you going to
excellent.
see it?
It's going to be Odeon.
Okay, because Odeon and View were the only ones showing it near me. I'm going to the View near me. So,
amazing! You boys are in for an absolute
it's like
treat.
the only screening of it. I'm very excited to watch it.
Yeah.
You're on for a treat. Who else, Adam?
Yes. We also have Sean Panda Nicholson, who is also a fairly new patron in the terms of them all, but again, very well established.
Absolutely established. Ensconced is what he is. Jamie, who else?
Well, we have the old guard. We have Nerd Revert. I think he's been a patron from the very beginning.
Nerd
He?
Revert. He has.
Yes.
He has been there. I'll tell you, we launched Patreon, and within 4 days of launching it, Nerd Revert joined the ranks.
Who was the first?
Well,
I think it was me, wasn't it?
Jamie,
was
you were an incredibly close second.
Was I? Oh.
Incredibly close second. I think maybe it was
Julio.
the global time difference. Julio was third.
It was Katie and Oti.
Katie and Oti were first out the traps. Bang. That Australian time zone. Got him. We roped him in. We also have a more recent member in Stephen Roberts. Steve from Movie Drone is how you all know him. Thanks for signing up, Steve.
Yes, you do. You also have, as Ben just mentioned, the third patron in the mix who featured very, very recently. It's Julio from the Contrarians.
Absolutely. Last one from you, Jamie. Who else?
Well, last and hopefully not least, have myself, Jamie Russell.
Absolutely.
From the Jamie Russell podcast.
He's leading the way here. Jamie is our most featured guest by this point, I believe. I think he's the only guest we've had
Julio
on.
might have been.
Julio.
We've had...
It says it's close between the two of us.
Yes, because Bart, the first time we had Julio, he was with Alex. So it was kind of split. Split. That Holy Motors episode. But yes, we've had you and Julio 3 times. And finally, how could I forget the Joaquin Phoenix lover, Fiona Stewart. Fiona,
yes,
bless you. If you're listening, you signed up after Adam and I absolutely decimated Joaquin Phoenix's performance, or particularly me, in Come On, Come On. You're still with us, so thank you very, very much. If you're listening... why?
Don't leave.
Yeah. What? How can you still be listening? We appreciate it.
We gave Joker's in our top 5, isn't
it? Yes, it is. Paul made up for it that way. Anyway, listen, if you want to join the ranks of those lot, you can go to www.patreon.com/filmbusters or Google Filmbusters Crossing the Streams.
Yes.
And you can sign up to many different ranks. They're all named after Ghostbusters. One of them's named after Slimer. You can be any of them you so choose. So have a look, have a little browse around there, and you can find out what we are up to.
Just a quick note, I've just thought of something.
Yes.
In the end of the last podcast, we promised you that we'd move some ratings around. We'll talk about this at further extent. But since then, we have decided on our ratings.
Well, we know that Jamie gets to add a ranking. Jamie, as a patron, you can decide. Do we reveal our new positions of our films now, or do we reveal it at the end of this when we get to the board?
There's one big one that's happened. The rest of them, I feel like, are probably quite
should
insignificant.
this not be something that Paul's here for, maybe?
No, Paul's given us permission to do it this episode. Yes,
Okay.
He wants us to reset the rankings. Yes.
Well, it's the first episode of the new year. It's a good time to do it, I would say.
Let's do it right off the bat.
Without going into too much detail, we'll probably explain the other ones when Paul's here because he knows the ins and outs.
Yeah, why don't you just tell everyone our new...
I upgraded a
Yes.
film from a 9 to a 10. And this film then goes to the top of the Filmbusters rankings. And it's the first film that we have
Irishman.
all given a 10 out of 10. And that film is The Irishman.
Yeah.
I thought about doing this last year. And I thought, there was another film I wanted to move around. I can't remember what it was now. But I thought, no, The Irishman is a 10 out of 10 film for me. And it's going to go into the top spot of Filmbusters now. It's overtaken Whiplash, which I don't know if I'm too pleased about. But
we can be pleased. We can be pleased because these are all incredible films to have at the top.
Ben's never upgrading Whiplash to a 10 out of 10. So
I might be contributing to Whiplash. Who knows?
Well, yes.
I might have to take that back now.
But there you go. We've got a new number one, listeners, and
Yes.
it's our only one we're unanimous on. And it shows how a film can go on a voyage, because I'm pretty sure when we came out of Irishman originally, Adam, I got a feeling you were giving it an 8.
No,
and
I
then
think
you
it was
moved
always
to a
a
9.
9.
Was it?
It was always a 9. But I think it was just a 9. And the more I watch it, the more I love it. I think I watched it 3 times now, and every single time it grows.
That's the power.
I'm going to have to rewatch it. I've only seen it once.
What did you give it, Jamie? Remind me.
I can't remember, to be honest. I think it would have been at least a 9.
Yeah.
At least a 9. I'll need to look on Letterboxd.
There was a lot of emotion, sentimentality at the time surrounding it. I was almost going into it so sure that I was going to have to give it a 10. But I was very, very I was very comforted by Journey's End that the quality of it actually held up. But anyway, that's it, listeners. We've got a new number 10. So before
New number 1, not number 10.
No, number 1. Yeah, sorry, new number 1. The only one with all 10s.
I gave it a 10.
Oh, you did?
Excellent, Jamie. You're in good company here then. Okay, so before we move on and get to the meat and potatoes of the episode, and even before Jamie takes the reins of the quiz,
The staple of every
explain
episode.
in a minute, the staple of every episode, one last order of business, an update order of business from us. I think we mentioned it in the last episode, but just so we do it, top of the year for everyone, so you know what to expect from Filmbusters this year. So Jamie Russell has brought RoboCop to us this year. 1987 was the year of release. We've decided over at Filmbusters that this year we're going to take films in rounds, and we're going to each pick a film from the year our patron suggests a film from. So Jamie has said 1987. So what that means is Paul's pick, Adam's pick, and my pick will also be films from 1987. I dare say by the end of the round, we'll have a discussion then about potentially which film is the best, most representative of the year.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll do something like that. And
I
then
think
we'll
best
reset
and
all over
representative
again.
are maybe different, though.
Well, they are, yeah. Best and representative are. But I'm looking forward to seeing the variety in each year, because there's a lot of very, very films that came out in 1987. Not showing my hand at this stage, but when you have a look at what we could be covering in future episodes,
really good year.
It absolutely
Would you
is.
have changed the year, Jamie, knowing this when you picked the film?
Quite possibly, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we only announced this briefly after you did it.
I mean, it's a brilliant idea. It's really good. Quite possibly.
But you've got to set the course of our opening 4 episodes, essentially, by picking RoboCop. You have forced our
But
hands.
also, to be fair, we are doing it a little bit different than this month, because there is a new film coming out that I feel we have to cover.
Yes, we will
one
be
of the very
covering.
good friends of the podcast, Scott Redding. If we don't do it, he'd probably break into our systems,
Scream, of
record
course.
his own podcast, and announce it and put it in front of everybody.
You got
So
it.
Yeah.
So there will be the odd contemporary release mixed in there.
Is there any chance for patron privilege? Quick reveal of your choices. I take it you've chosen your
I actually
87
still
choices.
don't know.
Well, see, the thing is, so you're going to find out at the end of this episode, Paul's, because we're going to play it live.
Right,
Me and Adam
right.
don't know. I have
He's
a voice
done a little
memo
voice recorded. We haven't listened to it yet.
waiting to
Okay.
go here to reveal next week's.
Brilliant. I love it.
And we won't know Adam's
Excellent.
until next
I'm
episode.
there's a film I want to do because it'd be fun, but I don't know if to do something else because I think I'll have to sit on it for another week or two.
Well, the interesting thing about this also is that, unlike in the past, for the most part, we've always picked films we've seen because we go, oh, that one will be good to talk about, that one will be good to talk about. I think this also gives us the option to uncover blind spots, like massive blind spots from a certain year that we haven't seen, that we go, do you know what, let's do it on the pod.
To be fair,
That's
I haven't looked into films I haven't seen in 87 yet.
Do it. Just out of interest,
So-
just do it, because
Yeah,
there'll
I
be
will.
some that we
Backer or
like.
blind.
Exactly. We've got
I've
to
still
go
got
back
another
around
week
mine.
or two to pick, I think. So
Well, listeners, buckle up because we've got all that coming. Right, forget that. Let's go to the staple of every episode. As you know, I won the quiz last year, which means that I'm normally the host. But as we don't have Paul, Jamie takes the reins on hosting duties.
yes,
Jamie, you got a couple of questions for us?
I do indeed. Are you ready, gents?
yes.
We are ready. And just to clarify, if Adam and I get the questions wrong, the points will go to Paul.
Indeed.
Are you
Right.
ready, Adam? Me and you heads
Yes.
ahead for maybe the first and last time this year.
I know this is going to be a sad moment.
This is like old time. This is like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I can't remember the last time you and I
Yeah.
went head to head. Here we go. Here we go.
Or last year, but...
Okay, question 1.
Yes.
What are RoboCop's 3 prime directives?
I knew it. Uphold. This is where I come unstuck, though. Adam, let me go first. If I get any wrong, you can come in. Right.
Extra credit if you get it in the right order.
Oh, fucking hell. See, this is the question I knew you were going to ask, and now that I'm on the spot, I've forgotten exactly the wording, but uphold the law, protect the innocents, and uphold the law, protect the innocents, civil obedience, maintain civil obedience. That ain't it, is it?
Well, I can't really say, can I?
It's true. Go on, Adam.
The first 2 that Ben said, is it plus bring justice? I feel it's got justice in it.
I think this is a question that's going to go to Paul. The right answer in the right order is serve the public trust.
Serve the public trust.
Protect the innocent, uphold the law.
Damn. So
You need to get all 3 of them, James. I'm sorry.
That's more
I
than
swear
fine.
it said bring justice or serve justice in one of them.
No.
What did I get justice from them?
I knew that you were going to ask that. That's exactly what I knew the question would be, and I fucking forgot the detail. Well done,
Okay.
Paul. You're not here and you still scored points.
1 point for Paul. Okay, so the next question. I think this is a harder question. We'll see. Right. What precinct was Murphy transferred from?
Oh, fuck. That's hard.
What, a number or the department?
Yes.
No, it's a precinct, particularly like a location. He's transferred, and the desk sergeant says, "Oh, you've transferred from. I hear that. No, that's a nice precinct. You're going to work here for 11 properly, sort of thing." Yeah.
Can I ask one clarifying question? You don't have to tell me. This is benefit both of us, Adam. Is it the name of a city?
No, but it does have a sort of let's say a direction in it.
Okay.
Precinct West, Precinct East.
Like that, yes.
So I'm going to say North Precinct then.
Okay, Adam.
I'm going to say Precinct West.
2 points for Paul.
Damn.
It's Metro South.
Do you know, I was going to say Metropolis. That would have still been wrong, but I thought Metro was in the title.
Metro.
Oh, yeah, I that was a complete stab in the dark for me, but yeah.
Oh, very good. Well done, Jamie, for those
Would you
questions.
let us have it if we said South?
No, he's a hard taskmaster.
No.
There's no way he was letting us get away with that. Paul, you've got 2 scores on the board. Well done. Thanks for those, Jamie. You've started us off on the back foot this year.
Yes.
Adam, you are 2 down against Paul already. You've got it all to do in the next episodes. Good Lord.
Normally,
Good Lord.
at the beginning of the year is normally where I bring my points as well.
I know.
It's true. You normally go screaming ahead that first part of the year.
Yeah. Basically, you finished last year as you mean to go on this year, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way you've done it. Excellent stuff. Great. Wonderful. There you go, patrons. There's the quiz. That's all you need to hear from us. That isn't about RoboCop. Let us cut to the film.
That is about RoboCop.
It is, but it's not RoboCopy detail, fleshy and metally RoboCopy. That's trivia detail RoboCopy.
The enforcement droid, Series 209, is a self-sufficient law enforcement robot. 209 is currently programmed for urban pacification, but that is only the beginning. After a successful tour of duty in old Detroit, we can expect 209 to become the hot military product for the next decade. Dr. McNamara.
We'll need an arrest subject.
Mr. Kinney.
Yes, sir.
Would you come up and give us a hand, please?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kinney is going to help us simulate a typical arrest and disarming procedure. Mr. Kinney, use your gun in a threatening manner. Point it at Ed 209.
Yes, sir.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kinney.
You now have 15 seconds to comply. You are in direct violation of Penal Code 113, Section 9. You now have 5 seconds to comply. 4, 3, 2, 1. I am now authorized to use physical force.
Right, everyone, as you heard, RoboCop 1987, the first film in our round of 1987, brought to us by Jamie. Before we get into all the glorious detail of RoboCop, we will, of course, our first inaugural plot summary of the year, revert to Adam to give it to us.
Yes. I'm good. I don't feel there's really much you can say. We'll go with a very simple plot summary for this film. This film is about a policeman who gets put into a government experiment or a company experiment to turn him into the ultimate policeman officer, and he turns him into a robot with a human face and a human way of thinking, but he's there, as Jamie said in his question, to protect civilians and uphold.
You've forgotten his directors already.
Yes. Anyway, yeah, he's half man. Well, he's not really half man. He's the head of a man, the body of a robot, and he goes around being a policeman.
Part man, part machine, all cop.
Excellent.
Is that actually in the film?
Well, that's the
tagline, isn't it?
The tagline, yeah.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah, RoboCop, the future of law enforcement.
There we go. There we go.
Brilliant. Well, you're not going to hear from me now. We're going to throw it over to Jamie. Jamie, why RoboCop? Why now?
Well, I think I might actually have to make an amendment to what I'd said previously. I said that originally my first 18 that I saw was The Thing. And I looking back now and looking at RoboCop, I think actually it was RoboCop was my first 18.
Is RoboCop 18 rated?
Oh, absolutely.
You kidding?
I know there's a lot of gore in it.
It's really excessive. I mean, even for today's standards, it is a clear 18. There's no way that... it was an interesting question because a lot of 80s films have been downgraded as have been sort of re-released on different sort of formats. So like Die Hard's gone down to 15, Lethal Weapon's gone down to 15, and a few others as well. But RoboCop will never go down to 15. No way. No way. I mean, that the Murphy massacre scene itself is that's 1830 big time. That traumatized me, and
that is pretty unforgettable.
Yeah, right. Particularly if you watch it at an impressionable age.
Did you see it legally, Jamie? Were you of age by the time, or did you sneak in?
No chance. Very underage, and I think that a lot of teenage boys, preteen boys as well, watched RoboCop in the late 80s underage. I mean, there's so I've looked on forums and everyone's sort of seen it as it's a bit of a rite of passage film. You watch RoboCop, you know, and
you're changed.
Yeah, you are changed, absolutely. I mean,
was the remake an 18?
No.
I can imagine them putting it down to like a 12 or something.
It was a 12, I think. Yeah. It was really sort of standard, and I'll speak about that later. But so I can take this back all the way to it was a secondary school English discussion. I remember this clear as if it happened yesterday. For whatever reason, the teacher decided to ask us what was our favourite film, and I think the implication is what was your most recent sort of favourite film. And so I was in secondary school, so I'd have been 12 maybe, and of course I didn't want to sort of say Ghostbusters, Back to the Future or Star Wars, anything like that. I wanted to sort of make it look as if I was an adult, you know, and sort of watching adult films.
I love that you just listed all of Adam's favourite films pretty much.
But you know what I mean, I love those films, don't get me wrong, but you know, everyone else was sort of saying things like RoboCop and all this sort of whether they'd seen them or not is it's different. But and it came to me and I was thinking, shit, I can't think of a film at all.
Even back then, you were taking this question so seriously.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then I remembered, that's just a couple of nights before. My mum and dad allowed me to stay up late to watch this really crappy TV movie called The Cassandra Crossing, which has like a virus on a train sort of film, but it's rubbish. But it was the only thing I could think of that was remotely sort of semi-adult. So I said, "Oh, The Cassandra Crossing," and I remember I remember some people saying, what the hell are you talking about? And actually, the teacher knew what it was. He said, that's that sort of made-for-TV film, and he sort of he pretty much ridiculed my choice. And then everyone else was saying RoboCop. I was thinking, RoboCop, that sounds really good, and I really want to see that. And you have to remember that this is pre-internet. This is pre sort of knowing everything about films. I hadn't seen a trailer about it. I might have seen a TV spot. That's the only way I would have seen anything for this, because it wouldn't have been on a trailer on a VHS or anything like that. And so yeah, I really want to watch it. I really must see this now. And a little bit later, it wasn't long after that, maybe, it was definitely in that same year. My best friend at the time and my sister, who's a couple of years older than me, and her best friend, we were all deciding on a film at that. Remember I said there's one VHS rental place in Orkney? Yeah. So this was before the competition. So I had no chance of, I think, pretty sure we must have had a parent who got the film in the end. But we all went for RoboCop. So yeah, brilliant. Here's my chance to see.
I thought
RoboCop.
you were going to say you had to argue your case for RoboCop.
Oh no!
Everyone wanted it.
See, I think because
It's all about justice.
Yes.
It's because it was a group consensus. We all wanted it. So I think poor mom probably was, okay, fine, okay, then I'll get it. Against her better judgment, I'm sure. So then we were watching RoboCop with my mom, and I mean, I was absolutely glued to it, but I was sort of really sort of blown away by it. I was quite sort of traumatized by parts, as I'll mention later on. And at the end of it, I remember being so sort of affected by it that I went to my younger brother, who is 3 years younger than me, and I said, Andrew, and you don't watch that film, okay? Just stay away from it. It will mess you up. And of course, by saying that, what does he do?
Goes and watches it straight away.
He watches it, doesn't he? So he's so much younger than me. What he actually did, he hounded Mum to watch it, so he ended up getting an individual screening of the film. But I didn't realise until later on, because I asked him, actually, I'm going to be doing a podcast on RoboCop. I said, I want to speak to you about what was it like watching it for you the first time. And he said, he didn't tell me this at the time, because of course he wanted to make it look as if he watched the whole film and he was, no problem. Mum sort of censored it for him, in a very mum way. So you got your Ed 209 and the Murphy's killing, and then the melting man scene, all the key scenes of the film.
Yeah.
But when rather than sort of telling them to sort of close your eyes and I'll just fast forward it through it, VHS.
Yeah.
She said, put this cushion in front of your face, right? So, but she still played it, and you said, there's a cushion in front of her face, and you were sort of peeking by the cushion, as you knew you would.
Because, your brother's going to listen to that, isn't he, when he knows something amazing is on the screen.
Come on, Mum. So, and also, if you think about it, that if you just hear it, your mind can just...
Sometimes it's worse.
Even worse, exactly. So, anyway... He did sort of technically watch it as well.
Does he still watch it to this day?
Oh yeah. He's watched it plenty of times. I mean, it's we've watched it together plenty of times since then as well. I mean, after that, I remember there's a really infamous edited version of the film on ITV. And I remember sort of really looking forward to it. I'm going to be able to record RoboCop, and I was really good with taking out adverts by that point as well.
Yeah, hit and pause at just the right time.
Oh, absolutely. I was an expert at it. And
Adam, you're too young to remember these toils and troubles you had to go through.
Within the opening 5 minutes, they had just butchered, censored all of the bad language. I mean, there's loads of
What time of day was it on at?
It was on at 9.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was.
But still, the TV edit, because they still have to, even when it came on after Watershed, loads of films they still have to like sanitize ever so slightly because the casual viewer could flick on at any given moment.
Yeah, but it was just absolutely massacred. So I think, right, to watch this film again, I have to buy it myself. Well, I did ultimately buy a copy of it, along with, I remember them very clearly, I think these are both 87 films, I think, as well. So, Predator.
Oh, yes.
And The Running Man. I think they're both 87.
They are 87.
So all three of them just happen to be 87. And I'd sort of watched them obsessively on rotation.
Yeah.
But RoboCop was always the one of those three. That was RoboCop, the one that really sort of had a big impact on me. So I watched it several times, but I don't think I ever really sort of truly understood the satire or anything in the film. And then I went to study film at university, and RoboCop was in one of the modules that I took.
Yeah.
It was a science. I think it's sort of identity, humanity in science fiction, and Blade Runner and RoboCop were definitely two of the films that were on the course, and there were other ones as well. And so that got me to sort of think, well, maybe there's something a little bit more that I hadn't really appreciated before in this film. Then the next thing that I can think of was my very first teaching year, which is 2001, and I was in Suffolk, in a mixed ability comprehensive school, so very different to the school I'm currently working in. And so it was the very first week in September. So September 2001, right? Yeah, I didn't have internet then. I didn't even have a television in my first week.
Wow. And
so September 11th happened, and I remember just listening to it on the radio thinking, I really need to get a TV. This is ridiculous. I'm missing out so much on this. So the very next day, I got a TV, and I got my very first Blu-ray player.
Wow, you were early on the Blu-ray player vibe then, 2001.
Was that early?
Yeah, very.
It probably was, actually.
Oh. I didn't know they were out that early.
And they must have been. And I got RoboCop on DVD. And this is something I should have sort of mentioned before, when I was watching RoboCop lots of times as a teenager, I found out that there was a director's cut. That the theatrical version is cut, and that's what got me interested in sort of censorship, and that's why I really sort of I wanted to watch the uncut version, and then that's when I sort of looked into all these other films that had been either banned or censored or whatever.
Yeah.
And that just fascinated me, and so this version I got was the director's cut.
Right.
This is the first time I watched it, and that was that brought another level of my appreciation of the film, and so I continued watching it and appreciating it more from an adult perspective, and then there's an Arrow release version about a year ago, and I got that as well.
Listeners, he's reaching down. He's showing us the Arrow RoboCop version, which does look very, very nice. Good artwork.
It's got brilliant sort of essay book of essays, which is
excellent.
Really good.
I feel like we can't give his film any less than a 10 out of 10.
I've just got started.
There is a Netflix. I don't know if you watched it on Netflix, Jamie. There's the movies that made us.
Yeah, I've watched it. Yeah.
I'm about to say I watched it. I think it was just before you announced RoboCop on this. Yeah. It's in the new series of it. They do RoboCop in it.
That's right. And Aliens and yeah.
I think Aliens. I've got to watch that one next. But yeah.
Well, there we go. Fantastic, fascinating backstory as always, Jamie. It's kind of implied by all of that how you feel about the film, but nevertheless, give us your 60-second elevator pitch as to how you feel about the film, not knowing your score.
Right. This is a film. This is a visceral Verhoeven classic of a film, which is part of his sci-fi trilogy. So you got RoboCop, Total Recall, Starship Troopers. He starts off with RoboCop. This is his first American studio film.
It was, yeah.
And it's one of the tightest scripts I can think of. It's got lots of wonderful political commentary running throughout it, and once you see it, you never forget it.
There you go.
Don't need to say much more than that.
Jamie, who do you want to hear from first?
I would like to hear from Ben first, and then Adam.
Okay.
I went alphabetic. I was Adam last first.
We'll reverse alphabet
Ben first,
this.
and then Adam.
So I watched this for the very first time when I was at uni as one of my modules in the sci-fi module, but I can't remember what the themes were that were sort of being presented at the time. But I remember, Jamie, not really digging it at the time and not finding it very, very memorable at the time, right? That was my first watch of it. And then I actually watched it again, I would say, for the first time since then, either early last year or late the preceding year. And I liked it, but I didn't really connect to any of the sort of themes in it. Like you just said, lots of political messaging in there, lots of commentary on America's obsession with technology, but at the same time, like their dismissal of violence, violence casually being treated alongside like games for kids and fun for all the family in some of those ad breaks. That kind of satire that is threaded throughout didn't really do very much for me at that time. So for that reason, and the visceral violence side of it, I didn't really think so. I was forgettable. But on this watch the other day, and this is something that's occurred to me many times with films that I've watched several times recently, I feel like I've hit a point in my life where I watch a film for the third or fourth or fifth time and it finally clicks. And I finally get it. And I don't know quite what it is, but all of a sudden now lots of things came clear that weren't clear before. First of all, the violence that you speak of is brilliantly done, and it has to be done in the way that it is because it needs to be so in your face. Alongside all this black humor that's running throughout it, it has to be that extreme. And it's not so extreme that it's like, oh my god, that was just terrible. There is a thread of comedy in all of those violent moments, whether it is Murphy getting blown to bits or whether it's your man covered in toxic waste coming out at the end. There's humor and graphic stuff going side by side, and that's what worked for me the most in this film this time round, was the balance of that throughout. Now there's a couple of other things that we'll talk about later, I don't want to go on right now, that I really, really did appreciate about it, which I never caught on previous viewings. The sexual politics being one thing, but also this idea of work and what work can do to us as human beings, and what our identity really is if we give too much to work or too much to family and not enough to the other, that sort of thing. I still have problems with it. I still have some qualms with it, but it's the best viewing I've ever had of the film. I understood it better than ever. Adam, over to you.
Okay. So this is only the second time I've ever watched this film. I probably watched it for the first time maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember much of the film. I feel like a bit like Ben. I think it didn't really. There's bits of it that stand out that you remember. Like I remember the whole robot. The other robot, the two-legged pod thing. What's it called?
Jamie knows.
Ed 209.
There you go. I knew he would know.
I remember all of that. I remember him getting killed, and I remember the whole, obviously, what the suit looked like. But I don't really remember the film beyond that point. And watching it again now, it was almost kind of like watching it again in a fresh start. I enjoyed it a lot more than I did that time as well. I definitely got into it. I definitely found it a bit funny. I definitely got the points to come across a bit more. But yeah, I still don't. I feel like there is that whole film of people who love it, and I'm just not quite on that level of like what Jamie would say. Probably gonna go is 10 out of 10s. It's a very good film for me. I appreciate everything it's done. It's great fun to watch, and I happily rewatch it. But there's a lot of the film that still doesn't work in ways. And again, there were still parts of it I don't remember. It's not always the most memorable film again for some weird reason. I don't know what else to say.
There's whole sections of this film I've memorised line by line.
I'm sure you have.
Seared. In fact, I'm so familiar with this film, I didn't even need to rewatch it for this podcast.
Did you not rewatch it? It's so fresh. Fantastic.
It's so fresh. Yeah.
So we said we were going to go through this chronologically, roughly. We'll talk in the round. We won't go through every beat by beat, but we'll talk in the round about what happened. But just to respond to a couple of things that you guys said up front there, for what it's worth, when it comes to the Verhoeven trilogy, this sits squarely in the middle. Total Recall is an all-timer for me, so it sits top. That's like top tier. Mm-hmm. Starship Troopers. The things that are wrong, not the things that are wrong, the things that don't work for me in this film is exactly why I don't like Starship Troopers, because it really doesn't work for me in that film. The humour is all off, and the political satire is it's not just because you're lampooning something does not mean you're doing it well, and doesn't mean you're making cutting comments, which they are not doing in Starship Troopers. They do it well here, though. Could have been handled slightly better. That was the one thing I wanted to say. The other thing I wanted to say is I think absolutely what you said, Jamie, about when the buzz for this film was going on, when you were in class and people were talking about it pre-internet, I can completely see why something like RoboCop would be this like unattainable cult mystical beast film that's out there, like Man and Machine. Yes, there was Terminator, but this was aimed at a younger audience. Even though it's an 18 rated, it's essentially aimed at an adolescent audience, right?
It was,
so this would be like the white whale. If you could get it, you can get it. But now, for us, for those of us who saw it a little bit later in life, or for someone like Adam, who's like seeing it in the age of the internet, it's very attainable. The minute you hear about RoboCop, the information's there immediately, and you've seen all the films that RoboCop paved the way to come along. And this is always an issue when you go to a film further back. You have to be able to separate what you know that it inspired and how good the films are now, with the fact that back then there was no template, and it was setting the template for that sort of work.
I feel like it's definitely one of the better films in that template of film. Like, it is one of those ones you definitely can go back to and feel like the original is probably just as good as you're going to get within that genre of film. For me, it's just a good film. It's a very good film. Sorry, it's not I don't know. But you're bringing so much attachment and so much heart with it that I feel like you can't argue against that. I'll
see what I can do. I've got a bit of time to influence you guys, hopefully.
Jamie is going to talk us up from where we may now currently
he said before we recorded the podcast, he said we'll try and get me and Ben up by a point or two if we can from the original point.
Let's see. We'll have to be honest at the end, Adam, when we give our score.
Please, I want you to be honest about it. Have I influenced you at all?
Brilliant.
Yeah. Right. Okay, shall we go?
All right, Jamie, take it away. Let's talk through RoboCop.
Right. Okay. I know that we'd like to. I would personally like to speak about the first scene that traumatized me to an extent when I first watched it, and that's the Ed 209 scene. But just quickly before we do that, I want to get your opinions on what you think about the world building in this film is like, because I really liked the opening couple of minutes and how you have, that I think the line is, you give us 3 minutes, we give you the world. And then you have what is very sort of prescient look into the future of news journalism. This is pre-Fox network. And just wondering, what do you think about how they are able to, and then you got this the start of this satirical advertising.
See, I think what you just said there hit the nail on the head. This was pre-Fox, and I'm need to get out of the headspace of contemporary viewing, where I'm like, yeah, we know that the world is like this. So when Verhoeven did that, I get what he's doing. I never really
thought of that before. Mm-hmm. I thought it was just still been around at the time.
Yes.
I feel like the only film I've ever done that with was Anchorman 2.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
Because it explains it to you in the beginning of the film. It's one of those things you just assume that's always kind of been around in this day and age.
what I really liked about it is that you would have references to nuclear war. Of course, this was in the height of the Cold War sort of crisis at the time. This is Reaganomics era, and you have them talking about this, what's happening in the real world, really sort of horrendous things. And then you cut away from it almost straight away to have something that's clearly an OCP corporation sort of a focus, indicating that because it's there, they're in control of the news, just much like Fox was.
It's that Succession.
Exactly. Yes.
Mentality at play there. We own it all. We own the news. We can tell people what they want to buy and what they need to be focusing on. Yeah. I also like the fact it got a little too on the nose for me, the amount that it was used throughout the film, but I liked the flippant 10-15 seconds on the atrocities happening in South Africa or whatever, and then it cuts to the family playing the nuclear board game around the table.
Nuke 'em. Get them before they get you.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's funny, but it's also like, this is a little on the nose, but I could see what it was doing. I did like that in a way.
I completely forgot about all of those parts when I rewatched this film. Like, I didn't remember any of the comedy happenings with it, especially this dark humour.
Give you a little bit of context for that. Apparently, Paul Verhoeven, the Dutch director, he was responsible for most of that. And it was because he, when he first arrived in America, he was completely sort of bowled over with how much excess media coverage there was, something that he wasn't used to at all, and how they were always cutting away for adverts every sort of 10-15 minutes. And so it's basically a bit of a commentary that he has of a European moving to America and being
That's a good point.
just being bowled over by the
American adverts are ridiculous. They are. Was it 5 minutes? They have three in a half-hour advert show, don't they? And we have one.
They will put an advert at the end of an episode of something and before the credits. So when it comes back from the adverts, the credits play.
And also they have the banners that come up at the bottom. I always remember when you're watching shows on like wherever it was, those little weird streams that have got the adverts on the bottom of them. It's just ridiculous. It's like
constantly selling and needing to promote something else. But you know what? That is the birth of streaming culture, where you don't get a chance to sit with what you're watching. It's get on to the next thing, have this now, get ready for this, which again is why Verhoeven probably was a bit insightful, ahead of his time. May I just say, I've just acknowledged, Jamie, that this is the second Dutch director you've brought to us then.
Yes,
you're doing the Dutch.
That is true. That's
the
true.
Vanishing in Dutch.
The Vanishing as well. Yeah.
The Coen brothers weren't Dutch, were they?
No.
They've probably got a Dutchman somewhere in one of their films. But to go to your point now about the world building, outside of that, in those early stages, it's clearly... Well, I was watching this with Jenny, and we said, this is clearly set in the future, but they don't actually say, not to my knowledge, that it's in the future.
I never knew this until I watched that show about the making of it. They shot it in, was it Dallas, wasn't it?
Dallas, that's right, yeah.
Right. Which looks very dystopian as it is, but it kind of works even if it's not the future and it is just an alternative dystopian dimension. It works very well like that. We don't need to think that it's too far away, and I like that they don't explain when it's set.
I agree. I mean, the Running Man gives a date, doesn't it? And then that sort of automatically, same as Back to the Future, you are encouraging comparisons. And I'm pleased that it hasn't done that.
And also the other thing, in terms of world building, if you want to call it that. Sorry, and this may be, I think it's before the scene you're talking about, but before the robot. What's it called? The ED 209.
Ed 209.
The Ed 209. I think it's for the Ed 209 when Peter Weller first gets transferred to the station.
Yes, it is.
Right, and then he's walking through the station. this is the point I sort of alluded to, the gender politics. I like it early on because he walks into the equivalent of the changing room, and everyone's talking about the cop's just been shot, and they're talking about the conditions they're working in and going on strike. And while you've got all these traditional men in that setting, these tough guys men, you've also got women cops taking their clothes off, getting dressed in front of men, but not in a salacious way, not in a leery way. Mm-hmm. They're doing it because they're part of the team, and the camera doesn't linger on them in a lingering way. It goes past because it's like men and women working together. They're all cops. Whatever we may think about cops in the modern world, for the purposes of this film, these are a unit. These are people that are working together. They're all grounded, and that gender equality thing plays throughout the whole film. One of the biggest things that I appreciated about it was the fact that Murphy and Lewis do not form a romantic relationship.
Absolutely.
And it was sort of set from the off in that headquarters.
Yeah, Verhoeven likes his co-ed changing room scenes. He does it again in Starship Troopers.
Yeah, I can't remember the detail of it.
He does. And apparently the actors in Starship Troopers were so anxious about it, he agreed that he would film the scene along with his cinematographer and key staff naked as well.
What in Starship Troopers or in RoboCop?
Yes.
Oh.
So you got Verhoeven, a sort of, how old he must have been in his 60s then, letting it all hang out. I mean, that must have been a pretty.
I don't know if that's going to make anyone feel better.
No, and I read that the cinematographer was fine with it because he'd been brought up in a nudist camp as a
oh well,
as a
absolutely,
man,
yeah. He probably turned up to work reporting for duty like that, right? Yeah, but all of that was good. All of that was good.
Shall we move on to Ed 209?
Let's talk about it.
Right. Okay. So I think this scene is just. This is where the satire really kicks in. This is Verhoeven's commentary, I think, on excessive American use of military force and power, and where you've got this Ed 209 robot that is just, it's calamitous. It's scene ends with Ed 209 massacring this guy, and it continues to fire until it runs out of ammo. Then it stops. It's just brilliant sort of commentary there on collateral damage.
Okay.
That America.
Because it wasn't meant to kill him straight away, was it? It was meant to when he put the gun down. It was meant to stop, wasn't it?
20 seconds he gave him, and if he put the gun down, that was meant to be it.
Apparently, it didn't hear the sound of it because it was a carpet and it was dropped onto a carpet and it deadened the noise of it going down or something like
Brilliant.
that.
I love that. I wish did that get did someone say that in the film? Someone should have said that. It didn't work because he dropped the gun on the carpet.
That's it. Ed 209 was done in by carpet. There you go. But this scene, this is the one that really sort of. The Murphy scene later on in particular, but this scene really sort of shocked me, just because I just wasn't expecting it. I'm obviously talking about my first watch of it.
It is very visceral. The blood. This
really
is where
it's kind of like okay, we're in now. This is what the film is. This is the tone of the film. You've got the adverts now. You've got the violence. You're in. This is what we're in for here.
And the violence, as we've always said on this podcast, so much better when it's practical. Yeah. And whoever was employed on the Squib team on this film, like they earn their paycheck because the Squib work throughout is fantastic, and we see it here for the first time. It is absolutely brutal when that guy gets gunned down.
It's my guy from The Thing, Rob Bottin.
Yeah.
He was the special effects man.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Excellent. Well, he's fantastic. What else has he done? Do you know?
He did Total Recall as well.
Oh, and well, see, there you go. Total Recall is one of the best practical effect films. He's fantastic. This guy. What is his name? Let's repeat it again. He deserves repeating.
Rob Bottin.
Rob Bottin.
Yeah.
I never heard your name before, and now I take note because you do some fantastic work.
I thought John Carpenter did a lot of the stuff on The Thing, didn't he?
No,
well, as director, but not necessarily as creative.
Practical special effects. He was 22 years old when he did his work on The Thing.
Really?
He looks absolutely insane.
Well, funnily enough, he looks like Tom Savini if you take those fangs out. Obviously, he looks like Savini.
He does.
The thing I like about the end of this scene as well is two things. What makes it doubly brutal is the old man who. I mean, we could talk about this at the end, but the old man who's essentially he gets a free pass by the end of this film at least because, he doesn't. There's no comeuppance for the old man. In that scene at the end, he walks away after the exec shot and he's complaining about the fact that, this is going to set them back and cost them lots of money. Not the fact that this poor exec's been shot to pieces. But then I like the fact that they're lined up him and I can't remember the guy. Is it Jones, the middle management guy, and then Miguel Ferreira?
Yeah, Bob Martin.
Martin, you've got them all lined up, and I was like, right, so by journey's end, this guy in the middle is going to have killed this guy, but this guy at the bottom is going to have created some tech which kills this guy, and that guy at the end is going to have fired this guy in the middle in order for that guy at the bottom's tech to kill this guy in the middle.
Yeah.
I just loved seeing them all lined up like that.
But I the way that there's a couple of points I want to say about this scene, and one of them is that this was one of the first scenes that was quite significantly censored. So I don't know what version you saw, but in the director's cut of this sequence, he gets blown back onto the Delta City model, and then he gets and there's another sort of 10-15 seconds of him. So he's absolutely massacred.
Reacting to a bunch more bullets, yeah.
Yeah, he's absolutely brutalised. And then by the end of that, it always gets me laughing. At the end of that, you hear someone say, "Will someone get a goddamn paramedic?"
Paramedic, yes.
This guy's absolutely massacred. And,
what's he going to do?
And by actually censoring that final section, and Paul Verhoeven said this himself, by actually taking that out, it makes it a more brutal scene. Because it goes on and on and on to the point of it being ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have the delivery of that line.
Yes.
Will someone get a goddamn paramedic? And it's a funny line.
It is a very funny line. Yeah.
And then I like you have the old man saying, "Dick, I'm very disappointed."
Yeah.
and then Jones says, "Oh, it's just a glitch, a temporary setback. You call this a glitch?"
Yes.
And I think at that point, oh, good, the old man's got a heart. He's going to really sort of. And then he talks about the damages and how much it's going to cost them. I think no, they're all corporate scumbags. They're just after it for themselves. And then to make it worse, and this is something I didn't pick up the first few times. Bob Martin, he sort of sees this as an opportunity, and he goes in and says, "Maybe not, sir. Have you heard of the RoboCop?" And then he says that. So basically, he says. Something along the lines of, the police officers have been placed in areas according to risk factor.
Yeah.
So they are deliberately placing officers like Murphy, who he's been transferred from Metro South, which is a nice precinct. He's under no threat there. He has been deliberately transferred to a more violent area so that he is going to be killed.
I never clocked that. I did not clock that.
Yeah.
I always thought it was a coincidence.
No, he's been deliberately transferred there so that he's going to be killed at some point. Because then Bob Martin says, "I'm confident I can get to prototype within 90 days."
Yeah, yeah.
And that is, Murphy is. And then he says later on, when is it going to happen? When the next poor schmuck. Which is
it's also like we're kind of jumping forward a bit now, but the bit where he says, "Well, they leave his left arm, don't they?" And he was like, get rid of it. We did 100%.
Yeah.
And he goes, he's dead. We can do what we want with him.
Yeah, well, he's property. He's OCP property.
This is like being with Ben. You reciting all the lines from films.
Yeah, and then so at the very end, when they're going down the left, the one guy says to Bob, the other guy says to Bob Martin, "Too bad about Kenny." That's life in the big city.
It's life in the big city. That's so brutal. It's like, any day I could just get blown away by this new tech robot that's been developed. Miguel Ferreira, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, Miguel Ferreira. A big round of applause for that man.
I should also say that the actor who plays Kenny, Kevin Page, follows me on Twitter. Hey.
Who's that? The black guy?
No, the Kinney, the guy that gets massacred.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Kevin Page. He follows me on Twitter.
Fantastic.
Yeah, because I did a whole lot of Twitter promoting of. Should have mentioned this before. RoboDoc, which is an extensive fan-made documentary that's coming out shortly.
Yeah.
But they've been planning it for and producing it for years. And I sort of promoted that, and he's obviously part of this documentary, and then he followed me in response to that. Yeah.
Well, Kenny, if you're listening, you went too soon in this film. I'm very sorry. We were robbed of more performances from you, but it gave us an unforgettable moment in the film.
Absolutely. And then moving on to possibly an even more unforgettable moment.
Yeah. Well, I will say hands down, this for me as someone, and like I said, is only so this watch has cemented the film in my mind. I can see it very clearly, not just because I saw it a few days ago, but more of it I know will stay with me than it did in previous viewings. This scene always stayed with me. The second viewing, it was more brutal than the first, and this viewing was more brutal than the second. His death scene, I mean, it doesn't lessen with time. It always gets worse.
Absolutely.
It's the bit when she's looking through the gate. She's looking through the racking just through him at him.
Yes, that's an interesting point. Is that I was going to mention that at the time, but as soon as you've referenced it.
Sorry, I jumped ahead. But
no, that's fine. This sequence establishes one of the key themes of the film, which is trauma. And trauma,
just like Halloween Kills,
and it's absolutely it is trauma and its effect on your individual identity, and it's very important that you see Lewis observing Murphy's killing, and she's completely she can just watch, powerless to what happens. So it's her trauma. You can't forget that it's not just Murphy's trauma that is considered. It's also Lewis as well, who's as a powerless looker on.
And she loses her new partner on day one.
It's his first day.
It is his first. It's his first day. Yeah, first day. Yeah.
Just been teamed up, and you know. The whole, and I said it before, but I again appreciate that the partnership is one of partnership. It's nothing beyond that. It's people on the level working together. Yeah. No need to jimmy in the romantic angle here.
Yeah. So you have that little reference to Alex Murphy is spinning his gun in sort of. In reference to his cop show, TJ Laser, something that is role modelling for his son. So that's a nice little sort of character detail. But then that becomes a very important sort of plot point later on as well. So the writing is sort of pulling double duty all the time.
Yeah,
it's such
when he starts to get more and more unhinged, doesn't he?
It's a really tight script. There's nothing that's wasted on this. Yeah. And that's part of the world building. I think is really well handled throughout.
Yeah, it is for sure. And this you know this, Jamie. I'm sure
this scene. I can memorize line for line. I'm not going to do it now. You're not going to make me do it live.
This scene is where we get the first use of the RoboCop iconic line, "Dead or alive, you're coming with me."
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I find it absolutely brutal because not only because of the special effects, but because it is so prolonged. It isn't the executive getting shot to pieces in the boardroom, which is just boom, 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 boom. It is one shot here, your hand's gone off. Second shot, we blow your arm off. Yeah. Third shot, we put some more. Well, by this point, he's been shot in the leg and a few things to put him on the floor. And then there's this panning shot where you know it. And the thing, for me, it works because you know the prosthesis is on Peter Weller. It's the scene where he gets the final shot through the head, and the way the camera pans, very like Total Recall, when Arnold Schwarzenegger is pulling the round ball out of his nose. You know it's prosthesis before he starts pulling it out, which makes it all the worse for me, because you think, if prosthesis is being used now and I can see it, but I'm meant to believe that this is human at this moment, something bad is coming. Because of how the practical effect was used. And when that bullet goes through his head, it's more effective because I could see the effort and the work that has gone into laying the groundwork for that brutality. And the camera pans around him as it's happening. It's not a static camera. The camera pulls back around him. And I heard that there was a motor. It was a puppet or something.
That's right, yeah.
But with they put a motor or something in the body, so it was trembling to give the indication that it was nervous. That attention to detail, that is horrific. Horrific. We're going to make this body tremble in fear before the final shot.
Judging by your description, that is the director's cut as well. That's the extended version.
I'm glad. But I'll tell you this, Jamie. Like I said to you, it stuck out much more this time. I've got a feeling in the past I did not see this as graphic as this time. It felt
How
more...
long is the director's cut, Jamie?
I mean, it's only about a minute longer.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
because I watched this on Amazon, because that's where.
So that's what I watched it on. So you would have seen the same cut as me then.
Yeah. I mean, there's the main scenes are Ed 209 is extended, and you get more in the Murphy scene as well. Originally it's the hand, and then you get his whole arm whole sort of arm gets blown off back, and then he looks back to see it, and then so that's an extended one.
There's something in this which could play in like on paper that sounds like it is very, very silly and could be played for comedy. You know, like Paul likes the brain dead and the reanimated body horror stuff. We talk about how Paul likes the very visceral body horror that has lots of blood and very grotesque and stuff like that. So on paper, it feels like that should fit into that genre. But because of the like framing of this film, even though we're talking about this thread of black humor that runs throughout it, this scene has no comedy for me. It should have, but it has no comedy.
I suppose there's a bit of sick comedy when he blows his hand off and says, "Give the guy a hand."
Give the guy a hand.
There's a bit of sick comedy, but it's the most brutal. It's sadistic. That's what it is. It's really drawn out.
It is sadistic.
The gang are almost like sort of school ground bullies, and how they sort of you see them prodding him, and while
there's no mercy in any of it.
And that just freaked me out.
That is horrible. Yeah.
Because I got nightmares over that.
In a modern day version of that film, after he does no, he wouldn't pull the trigger.
No, or you'd see him pulling the trigger, but you wouldn't necessarily see that.
You see the impact. No, you wouldn't. But I'll tell you this. So while we're on this topic, then, one of my problems with the film, Jamie, is the wider gang. As much as I love Ray Wise, and I'm not speaking about him specifically, I'm talking about that wider gang. They feel a little bit TV movie of the week, criminal gang for me, because they're all they're like cackling like hyenas. They're watching I buy that for $1 guy on telly and cackling away at him. They feel a little bit cardboard cutout for me. The difference is that they're then part of this really brutal act on Murphy. But I gotta admit, they never quite recover. The leader of the gang, different story. He gets progressively scary, but the rest of the gang always feel a little bit like a bunch of losers. They just happened to be in the room when this terrible thing happened.
Yeah, I can see that. That I don't think there's a real opportunity in the film to give any sort of development for these characters. They are essentially psychopaths. I mean, that's all they reset. You got Emil, who's becomes the melting man. He's important in that he instigates Murphy's RoboCop at that point, his understanding of his true identity. So there's a bit more with Emil's character perhaps, but it's all about Clarence Bodica. He is a terrifying villain.
But he gets scarier as the film goes on, because when I was first introduced to him again in this most recent viewing, I thought, well, what's the first time we see him in this film? It's not when he kills Murphy. What?
I
It's
know the first time is when they're in the van and they're blowing up the
That's right.
safe for the money, and then he's kicking Emil the driver.
and he throws.
That was improvised. He just started kicking
was
him.
it?
It was improvised, and you can imagine Emil the driver was really not happy about it.
Well, I think that coupled with throwing the member of the gang out of the back of the van onto the windshield, I
Can
think.
you fly, Bobby?
Yeah, but see that "Can you fly, Bobby?" That if very early on sets you up with, okay, well, here's the villain with the catchphrases. Early on, he's going to be throwing these catchphrases. There's not much to fear with this guy, so I lumped him in with the rest of that gang. It was only as the film started proceeding, after he kills Murphy, yes, the Murphy killing is brutal, but the act of it is less so. I didn't really fear that guy, but then every time we saw him afterwards, he got creepier and creepier. Progressively, he works as a villain. So I'm not saying that as a negative about the film. I'm saying that up front, I underestimated him as a villain. I didn't think much of him. As it went on, it got worse and worse for me.
Terrified me.
I quite like them as a gang. I thought it quite worked within the tone of the film. It's just these are your average day one of the guys. They don't really sound like they know what they're doing.
That's because all they're doing is missing an atom of the gang, mate. You would have fit in perfectly with them, I'll tell you.
They're just going out on a whim, just causing general chaos, about to meet the world's most pristine cop.
Yes, I know. I guess
this is what you're effectively built your machine to build. You're beating them to beat some morons on the street. You're not beating them to beat Hans Gruber.
It's true, but I guess they feel like, I don't want to make this comparison, right? But you know, you've seen The Crow.
Yeah.
So slightly similar, the goth version, let's say. In it, there is a gang member who comes across as very grating and generic up front, and there is a moment where Brandon Lee, where the Crow has tied him down in his car and is about to send his car flying off into like a river and blow up the car.
Yeah, that's right.
And the villain, he looks at Brandon Lee and he has this moment where he's saying, "You're dead, there ain't no coming back. You're dead, there ain't no coming back." And you could really feel this humanity in him, and it makes the moment of revenge by Brandon Lee all the worse because you want him to have the revenge, but it feels wrong that he's getting it because this guy can't comprehend the reality of the situation. But I never felt it with any of the supporting crew in this film. In this film, it was more like when they get their inevitable comeuppance, it's just going to be a cheer. But that's okay because it's that kind of film.
It's cathartic.
It is cathartic, yeah. But I just wanted a little more from the
I don't feel you need to. I feel like
guys.
it works on the level that it works.
Well, that's okay.
You keep it moving, just keep this film moving, kind of figure. It's like the interest isn't with them; it's with everybody else in this film.
Well, as we come on to a couple of other Jamie scenes, there's more that I'll add to this about the gang members, which might help with how I feel.
Okay, so I just wanted to just quickly, this is technically not my next scene, but I think it's worth speaking about this. When he's taken into the hospital, you get these extended use of point of view shots, and you get the experience from Murphy's perspective near death, and you have, and this is where the trauma. So the film, in many ways, this film is about post-traumatic sort of trauma as well. So you have this connection between what has happened. He sees the images of them shooting at him, and it's sort of mixed in with them trying to save his life, and it triggers the first
flashback,
family memories, and that's so that the trauma is directly influencing his memory resources, and it's this that is then becomes a really important part of the film as it moves on. But when Murphy dies, dies inverted commas, and RoboCop is born, and Verhoeven has commented that this is his resurrection scene. He sees a lot of religious metaphors in this film. This is Murphy's resurrection as a Christ-like character, and again you see it as a point of view from RoboCop as an individual. The first sequence of shots is from his perspective, and so you are taking Murphy's point of view and perspective. You're encouraged to empathize with him, and so it's becoming much more interesting as a film.
Yeah.
Verhoeven makes very interesting choices in how he films this, and how RoboCop is introduced. It's all very, very effectively done.
Yes, no, it is. The one issue that I have with the memory, the family memory, is we're given a fake out, which feels a little bit cheaty here. We cut to his happy memories, walks into the bedroom, and his wife approaches and says, in a very serious tone, "I've got something to tell you," and then it cuts.
Yeah.
And we later know that will pay off in a very just family, I love you,
Joking away.
I love you way. Yeah. And it's, why were we we shown that scene? Because there's no fake out on Murphy. Like he there is no journey for him grappling with the what was she going to tell me. And for us as an audience, we're not given anything more to go on to even think that's part of a.
I think it's fragmented recall. He's just got little sort of elements of memory, and as he goes on, that's when those memories are more. It's got more sort of layers.
The
and
bad
detail
turns
to it.
into good, kind of.
Yeah, that first sort of it's just get flashes of it. It's when he goes back to his house. That's when, and when he picks up the photograph, that's when you get additional memory recall.
Yeah.
Total recall.
Total recall, yes. Yeah, very good, Adam. Very clever, very clever. And obviously when he goes back to the house, we've got more tech ingratiated with home life, essentially showing people around a house, a computer showing people around.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I and again, I like that was used to even personally better effect in Total Recall, where you have the Johnny driving the android driving the cabs around, and
Johnny Cab,
yeah, and how they turn back. Yeah, very good.
And so the next scene, pretty much directly after this, is a sort of the birth of RoboCop, and I really liked the way that you have RoboCop introduced in stages. The sound design also is just absolutely fantastic throughout this. So you hear his steps, the thumps of his walking.
And you see him on the TV screen,
don't you?
Good. I love that shot on the screen, on the TV screen.
And you see him walking through the glass, but you can't really see him.
On the frosted glass.
Yeah, it's perfectly...
And you hear everyone's reaction. It's like Jaws, in a way, the hinting.
Yes, absolutely.
And seeing people's reaction. Yeah, absolutely.
And then...
the other funny scene that always stuck in my... Not the funny scene, the visual that always stuck in my mind was when... From RoboCop's perspective, when he rises for the first time and everyone's having a party around him. No, it's after the party, and Miguel Ferreira's there, Morton's there, and he's going, "Come on, it's for you, it's all for you." That I remember that shot because I think, Adam, like you say, it leads to the glimpse in the TV screen off to the left, your first little shot of him. Question, Jamie, you'll know this: the movements of him in the suit.
Yes.
Is that Weller? Is that him jerking that way?
That is absolutely Weller.
I only found this out when you watched that documentary on it.
Is that right? Yeah?
It is, yeah. But,
there's very impressive work in the suit, I've got to say, because it feels like the suit was programmed to spin in those ways. It doesn't feel human at all.
Yeah, originally he worked with this sort of mime artist, and he was...
Wow, really?
Yeah,
really? That's fascinating.
And he was really sort of working on his movement, and he's going to be really fluid. But then when he got into the first costume, it was a disaster. It was he wasn't able to move the way that he wanted. The special effects guys were working on the RoboCop costume, independently to Peter Wells. He had no idea. I mean, I don't know why they didn't have him sort of testing it as they were going through, but he had no idea, and apparently on the first day that he was supposed to be in the costume, he just could not move at all. And
Really?
he said this is a disaster.
It just took him like 15 hours to put it on, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then he said, well, this is ridiculous. I'm going to have to completely change my method. And then he spoke to Paul Verhoeven, and he's basically sort of said, you're going to have to give me some time to get used to this. And he said, right, you've got a week, something like that. You've got a short period of time to work out the movements
Your
that you
movements.
want. And that's what he came up with. So you see that he moves the shoulder, he moves the head and and his body separately. So
That's
It's
right.
like, what's
There
his
is
name in
something
Upgrade,
perfect.
isn't it?
Oh yeah, but Upgrade is good, but camera work helps with that in Upgrade,
Yeah.
because I was in mind of Upgrade when I was watching this, but in Upgrade, because when he moves, the camera moves with him, which makes it feel like you're almost part of the suit. This was all Willer. That is impressive.
It's a brilliant performance.
Yeah, they were
He is-
saying that they had so much time when the suit was being built as well, didn't they? That he was just in the car park practicing,
Yeah,
walking around, just...
yeah.
I heard that he tried. I did hear that he went not method, but he was like, just call me Robo.
Yeah, he did,
And Verhoeven was like, I can't call you Robo.
He lost up to it was between 2 and 3 pounds of body weight
heard
every
this.
single day.
Fucking
To the
mental.
point
That
where
is.
they had to build some like air conditioning into the
Jesus, into the suits.
Yeah.
I bet he and 2 years later, Michael Keaton would get into the bat suit, and I bet him and Peter Weller were in a bar somewhere going, these fucking suits, man. They need to consult us along the way. We can't move for shit.
And then what I think is another interesting point is you can view RoboCop literally as a child that's been reborn, because you have that sequence where you get this baby food.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and you do have a question. There's one thing I'm a little bit unsure about. I think Bob Morton says that that RoboCop has sort of a rudimentary digestive system, hence the need for the. But you wonder why. Why
would you
does
need
he
it?
need it? It doesn't really make any sense to have.
Is
that.
it that
Keep your brain going.
Yeah, I mean,
possibly.
He's a cyborg, which implies cybernetic organism. So there must be some organic matter that needs to thrive and live off of that
I
food,
suppose
right?
that must be it. But I thought that was a bit.
His head's
forward.
still human, though, isn't it?
Well, is your understanding that the only part of him that is organic is not just his face? I assume there's there's brain behind there.
Yeah.
Matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's obviously got some sort of rudimentary, as you say, he must have some sort of.
Because he was wearing a bulletproof
So-
vest, and that looked like it was doing an okay job at the beginning of the shooting.
Yeah.
But it was. He must be.
Some sort of nervous system within as well, probably something.
Must be
Combined with the cyber. Yeah, but I agree. And before, just in case we don't mention it later, I think that the scene which comes later, right before the showdown at the mill, when Murphy and Lewis are, she's helping him aim.
Target
And he's
practice.
Yes. He's shooting the baby food.
That's
yes,
right.
it's sort of like a rejection of "fuck you for giving me that," but
Yes.
also in that scene, it kind of works as a sort of there will be no baby. Like doubling down on the no romance thing. It's also like no romance could ever exist between us anyway, because the option for me to become a father again now is eliminated.
Yes.
That I'm not a man in that traditional sense anymore.
Yes, absolutely. Just quickly mention, the scene when he exits the police station and grabs the key
Out of the air.
walks out. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
Yeah, that took 50 takes
to catch it.
Yes.
Because he's not looking.
because he can't look for the keys exactly, but also his hands.
Hand is fucking massive.
The gloves are made of rubber. So it
yeah.
just kept on slipping out of his hands.
I bet that was fun for the crew having to reset that take.
It took a whole day, apparently.
Jesus Christ. Someone must have just said, "Can we just drop this scene? Do you
Can't we do it the
need to
other
do
way
this?
around? Just like throw the
I
keys
must
out of
admit,
their hands?
Throw the
It's
keys
a-
backwards."
It's a very cool scene, but is it really
is.
worth that? Jesus.
Well, we're talking about it, so obviously it is.
Anyway, so you then get the sort of, it's about a 10 minutes, well, it's probably less than that, 5-minute sequence that I like to call the Judge Dredd part of the film, where RoboCop goes around. I think it's 3 different sort of incidents he gets involved with, and causing mass destruction along the way as well.
My favourite of these being, well, they're all great, but the one that I like the most personally is when the 2 rapists are attacking the woman, and he shoots the rapist in the dick through her dress while her legs are slightly spread, and she comes to him saying thank you, and he very compassionately says, "Madam, you are suffering shock. I will notify a rape crisis centre," or something like that.
Dispassionately. It's not,
I know. Yeah,
She was going to
dispassionately.
kiss him for saving the day.
Madam,
But he still says the words, right?
I will. Yeah. It
He
shows
could
that
have just been like,
I think
a
it shows-
Terminator type would have just done the job, bang and on. But he has a little of that,
I
He has a
suppose.
little of that. But you're right. He says it without emotion.
It's still sort of it's still the machine part of Murphy who's responding to that.
Yes.
It's not, I mean,
You're right.
Yeah, the more human Murphy comes later on. It's still a very sort of robotic sort of response
you're
to
right.
it, which gives a bit of a laugh, I think, to that scene.
Yeah.
But there's a brilliant fan-made film on RoboCop. You can see it on YouTube, and I think it's scene 27. It's the best scene in the film, although they do a good Ed 209 one as well, where they do that scene, and it's just as it is in the film. And then after that, all these other rapists start coming in to that scene, and they're with their prosthetic dicks hanging out, and RoboCop just shoots all of them in the dicks. It's about a 30-second scene of prosthetic dick carnage, and it's just hilarious. You've got to see it. It's so funny.
Brilliant. Sounds worthy of Velocipasta, that.
It's so funny. It's as I said, this is the Judge Dredd sequence. You said you were going to say something about.
So my question at the time when we were watching it, I said that very Judge Dredd costume, and I was like, which came first? So Dredd came first in the 80s as this comic book series. Dredd was first, and well, you say that you are pretty sure that RoboCop was inspired by the design. It seems quite clear. The difference being that Dredd's helmet is much higher. It just covers the eyes, but the rest of the face is there.
Yeah.
But also, it's not that he is in any way an android, a robot, a cyborg, whatever. He is human. That's just his outfit.
Yeah.
That helmet is the coverage.
Yeah.
But did Sly's Dredd come out after RoboCop?
Oh yes, definitely. It came out.
Okay,
yeah,
so
it came out
RoboCop,
early 90s. Yeah.
So RoboCop was really the first cinematic use of that visual. Yeah,
I think so. Mm-hmm.
So RoboCop, funnily enough, Dredd probably paved the way slightly for the design of RoboCop, but then RoboCop's design in cinematic form would have paved the way for Sly's Dredd.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is not the Dredd film to watch, by the way, listeners, if you're considering it. It is the Carl Urban version. The Carl Urban
100%, definitely.
Yeah.
Talking of which, have you watched the remake of RoboCop?
Yes.
Yeah, and I deliberately left it for a long time because I love the original so much. I thought this can only sort of tarnish its reputation, and I just watched it last year. Actually, I watched it, and actually, Ben, I'm going to credit you here. I saw your Letterboxd review of it, and you weren't slamming it. I thought, well,
no,
I'll give it a go.
It was half decent. It was pretty good. Well, did you agree?
Yeah, I thought it was a decent effort. I mean,
it was a decent effort. It's not as good as this.
Nowhere near.
It was a decent effort.
Part of the problem was that I heard later on that the studio put a lot of pressure on the director to make it more family friendly. It was going to be a bigger budget film. And
for sure.
Apparently, the original director really wanted to go for a much harder sort of films, similar to Verhoeven. And it was just taken out of his control in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think we on the outside know that any director who is going to take like a beloved classic and try and do a remake of it and try and make it gritty and dirty and inaccessible by making it 18 rated is going to get beat down by the studio unless you have complete autonomy as a filmmaker to go, fuck you, I'm doing my version of it. That was inevitable, right?
Possibly, but there's another. I think I don't know whether it's a remake or a sequel, but it's currently in production at the moment. It has the original screenwriter Ed Neumeier on it.
Oh, really?
Yes, it it did have at one point District 9 director
Blomkamp.
Yeah, he was going to do it, and then he
would have been good. He would have been good
he
behind
would
the
have been
camera
good
for it.
And I think it needs a sort of a non-American director.
It needs a European,
Definitely.
Well, you mentioned it right at the very beginning there when you were talking about that sort of when he came over to America, his perception of American media and how it's presenting things. Throughout the film, it definitely doesn't feel like an American filmmaker has told that story. It feels very European.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what makes it so much better.
Oh yes,
but
absolutely.
Apparently Verhoeven, when he first read the script, he threw it in the bin. He was not interested in it at all.
Interesting.
He's not. He's really interested in science
They had to
fiction.
come to him a second time, didn't they, or something?
Well, apparently his wife picked it out of the bin and read it, and actually said and encouraged Verhoeven to read it again, and said she said that there's more to it than meets the eye, and a more careful read through, he was able to see the satire in it, and he understood it more. And so we have to credit Mrs. Verhoeven for RoboCop.
I mean, sorry, Adam, go on. Sorry,
I was just going to ask about the sequels as well, but
I'm not a fan.
The sequels didn't happen, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, okay. That's the right way to look at it. Yeah, it's not even in a sort of, if you like the first one, you might at least be able to get something from the follow-ups.
You see, the thing about RoboCop is it's a perfect film.
Yeah, as it is.
You can't go any further. It's told the story. That's
exactly.
I haven't watched the sequels. I'll
stay away from them.
Stay away. Even though Peter Weller is in that sequel, and so is the a person who plays Lewis. Yeah. She's in all three of them, actually.
That's right. Yeah. I haven't actually seen the third one, and I'm not going to. It's a worst of the bunch, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely forget it. In the same way that I love Carlito's Way, but I have not watched any of those follow-up films. I will not.
No,
because
me too.
There's no point.
There's more films from Carlito's Way?
There's two. There's two.
Yeah.
Really?
But there's no, obviously no Pacino or anything like that. So it's like the rise to power and shit like that, Anyway,
why would they even think that was like anywhere near to? I kind of get RoboCop to an extent, them remaking.
Well, RoboCop feels like a franchise. RoBocop feels like, okay, we've got that idea. People have bought into it.
Yeah. There's a TV series as well.
Yeah, there was a TV series. Yeah. And also, like anything that you can sell action figures of, you've got a franchise for if you want it.
Yep. Okay, so I think the next scene, I think this is the turning point in the film. This is the sort of the screenwriters will often talk about plot points between acts. So between Act 1 and 2, you need a plot point which will, just spin the screenplay into the second act. And so I think this is the transition from Act 1 to Act 2, and the turning point is the gas station scene, when Murphy comes across Emil at the gas station, and that is when he says again that line, "Dead or alive, you're coming with me." Of course, he says it to Emil, the person he said it to him as Murphy in the first place, and that's when and Emil's response, we killed you, you're dead. And you see Weller's face drop, and he stops, and the guy's shooting at him. He freezes.
He's ineffective.
Yeah. And he's recorded it. And that recording device, I presume, just comes on.
It's just built
instinctively,
automatically, instinctively. This is important information. I know it. I sense it.
Exactly. And then he finds out. He goes to the what sort of data collection place. He uses what I see as a USB. When the spike comes out.
It's always convenient, that, isn't it? When they've got a little thing that can just access the computer.
Well, that's
the computer just happens.
But
I'll
tell you what, to the film's credit, they don't just use it here. He uses it again later.
Indeed, he does.
In another computer screen, and then as a weapon.
A big chopstick.
I think the key with this is the same hand that gets blown off.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, so there's that connection then as well. This is the hand that he uses not only to download the information to get the gang, but it's what is used to finish Boudica at the end. Just
Yeah,
jump
yeah.
forward a little bit there. And then, so this is it's a really, really important scene, and it develops the trauma linkage to memory when he goes to his house. You've got a repetition of some of the earlier memories that he had,
Yeah.
but then they are developed and they are built on. It's a sense that he is working out his identity gradually. It's piece by piece, and it's there's a real sort of emotional core to the film, which is unusual for sort of an 80s sort of action film. Well, is this an action film? Because it's got horror, it's got obviously sci-fi, it's got Western elements. I mean,
I would put it down as a sci-fi action, but it obviously it's got more subgenres.
There's a lot of horror. I mean, you can interpret Murphy as or RoboCop as Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
And
I mean, it's a hybrid of popular genres at that time, right?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Which is kind of
a product of the decade almost.
Product of the decade, and maybe as we talk about other films from '87, we'll be able to shed a little more light at this at the end. But I think, considering at the time, this was coming up against very genre-specific films. Like if we think about some of the other films based on just what we know from '87, you've got like war films with Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
You've got things like Grease, big romantic musical numbers. You've definitely got a big horror film from '87, which I can't remember what it was.
The Lost Boys is '87.
You had The Lost Boys.
You got
Jaws of Revenge. All of these very, very specific, big budget films that could draw in an audience. And then you've got RoboCop, which a cop resurrected mainly as a robot. It's not typically
You got Evil Dead
appealing.
2. That
Evil
came
Dead
out
2,
in-
but it's not typically appealing to any what you might call maturer film. And by mature, I mean older than 21.
Yeah,
really,
I agree.
film audiences who want to see a more serious. Give me a serious horror, a serious war film, a serious this.
Yeah.
This is like, oh right, and that's where I think maybe it sort of fell down because it was trying to straddle a lot of genres, but in doing so, it wasn't appealing to the more mature audience, which is who the film was actually made for, because it had the fucking 18 rating in the first place.
Yeah.
But I do think it walks all those genres seamlessly. It doesn't at any point feel like, it's trying to do too much here. It blends the genres very, very well. At this point, I didn't understand why, after he gets, what's the guy's name at the gas station?
Emil.
So Emil face plants, takes a ride across the pavement.
Yes.
He grabs him. Who are you? Who are you? Picks him up. He can't answer. It looks like he's dead, so RoboCop just drops him. Then goes to Ray Wise in the nightclub, yanks him off the nightclub floor, dragging him away. Tell me where, what's his name? Boudica. Tell me where Boudica is, something like that. I assumed when the camera cut on both of those scenes, those guys were either dead or in jail.
Yeah.
But then they're all there at the end as part of the gang. Why did he leave them?
But I think they could well have been arrested. But so
Right,
I think
they just bailed out or something.
Yeah, I think that the whole point of this is that OCP are in control of the police, essentially.
Okay,
so
so it extended to Boudica's gang as well, perhaps.
Exactly. So
okay.
Boudica is released quickly, Emil is released quickly, and he sort of, they sort of laugh and comment about it, saying that they've got nothing to fear from the police because OCP will sort it out for them, because they are essentially running the area down so that then
they can profit from cleaning it up.
Exactly. Yeah.
So which is again another fascinating theme throughout it.
Yeah. That's my interpretation of it. And you mentioned the dance scene. There's this one character that goes right to the front of the screen and sort of goes like this, waves his hands. That's Paul Verhoeven himself. That's his little. That's his.
Oh, is it? Is
that's
that his little cameo
That's his
in it?
Hitchcock cameo. Yeah.
They can't resist, can they? These
Yeah,
directors,
yeah.
they love to get involved.
Would you put yourself in a film if you were a director?
I would be cameoing all the time, all the time.
The whole film, every scene.
I would.
It's the only scene in the film that looks truly 80s, though, doesn't it? That is an 80s scene with the hair and everything. I love
The music.
When Ray Wise's gun is knocked out of his hand, flies in the air, and someone else picks it up. It just carries on dancing.
Dancing with it.
It's brilliant.
Innocent times with guns on the dance floor like that.
And no one else is really batting an eyelid as
no one is.
RoboCop
You
in.
just carry on while he's getting dragged out by the hair. Yeah, it's great.
I think I read that Peter Weller said that the scariest scene to film was this scene walking down the steps into the nightclub because of how big the suit was, and he wasn't allowed to look down. He had to look straight ahead, and he was terrified. But he never fell.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah.
No. Yeah, where do we go from there?
Okay. Well, I think the next scene, I mean, there's maybe others as well. The next scene I would like to speak about is the sort of. So you do have the cocaine scene, which is that's a really sort of enjoyable scene. And again, I forgot to mention this before.
Scarface levels of cocaine in that scene.
Yeah, absolutely. The music in this film is just. It's brilliant.
It's a very good score.
Really
and the
good.
RoboCop sting in particular is very satisfying each time it plays.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Particularly at the end.
yes, brilliant. And then you have after that, that is when he captures Bodica for the first time, throwing him through all those screens.
Very satisfying beat down of Bodica. Very satisfying.
Yeah,
Especially to see Bodica essentially begging for mercy in a way here.
yeah, and he's
selling out
he's
Jones.
strangling- Yeah, but that's when Bodica basically gives up.
Dick Jones.
Dick Jones, doesn't he? Says OCP runs the cops. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
A great reveal for RoboCop
Yeah,
there.
but then Bodica just goes to the police station, and this was improvised apparently. Spits onto the paper. Just give him my fucking phone call.
That was brutal, horrible.
Yeah,
He spit that blood out with
Yeah.
such venom. It's
Yeah.
horrific, especially
If
after
you're going to do
RoboCop.
it properly, isn't it?
If that's improvised, bravo.
that was improvised. But
After RoboCop's just said, when they said, what are we charging him with? And he said, he's a cop killer. And for him to then do that, you want him to fucking die after that. You really do.
But then he's released almost immediately after that. So it's just to show that this is such a corrupt world.
Oh, yes.
And I like how that is explored. I mean, all the characters, they're just horrendous. This is corporate capitalism at its worst.
Yeah, that's it. The bad guys are multi-level in this.
Absolutely. I remember the first few times I watched this, I liked Bob Morton. I thought, Bob Morton, he's a RoboCop creator. He's one of the good guys. He is not.
He's a nasty piece of work.
He's a nasty piece of work.
Interesting you say that, Jamie, because I never remembered the scene with him with the two prostitutes snorting the cocaine, and I wondered if that was a director addition. But it can't be because it's
that's a scene
crucial that he's
quite a
killed.
big
when he's
scene.
killed. Yeah.
But they also
again, so the bitches leave, and they go out.
Brilliant.
And
Bitches
one,
leave, yeah.
One of them turns around and goes, "Are you going to call me again?"
That bitches leave is great. Yeah. They said that, or whether it was Verhoeven or the writer said that they wanted to make Morton a bit more sympathetic rather than just an out-and-out villain. I don't really find him sympathetic at any
not
point.
at all.
Maybe in the first 5 minutes of that initial boardroom scene where you just think he's like an executive grunt just applauding, just a yes man. But the minute that he gets the opportunity to jump in there.
He doesn't applaud him.
I thought Morton isn't he the only one applauding in the boardroom?
He applauds the old man when he's talking.
Sorry, that's what I mean. The old man.
But very vociferously, he could try to get everyone else to applaud. But as soon as Dick Jones gets up, he's not going to applaud anything that he says.
No, that's true. Yeah,
he's a self-centered.
He is. He's a nasty piece of work. And even there, Bodica gets to take him out by pulling the pin in the grenade with his teeth.
Oh, yeah.
As a video plays on the screen, that is very 80s stuff. Playing messages on video.
Yeah, but you say that's very 80s, but he used a disc, so this is pre-DVD. This is another sort of prediction of the film.
That's very true. Yeah. See, you forget these things. Yeah.
Was it discs around at all at the time?
DVD was not. DVD was
no Laserdisc either.
Well,
no.
over disc. That
Even
must have
Laserdisc.
been an idea.
Even Laserdisc was not 80, 86, 87. That was.
No, that's about 10 years before DVD.
Yeah.
That is crazy. That you predicting what a memory stick would look like in future, almost like.
Yeah. I mean, it gets a lot. It gets a lot of things spot on.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, I think that's also why if you catch these films way ahead of the curve before the things that they predict actually become reality, it resonates even more when they do become reality, because you're like, fucking RoboCop knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like the Simpsons up in here.
Well, for me, it's always Terminator, Skynet. Everything that happens with technological advancements, I'm like, it's Skynet.
Yeah.
Because I saw that film told me this was going to happen. I'm seeing it happening. We're giving over.
Are you
going to
die in the lava?
Yeah. Well,
Judgment Day.
Exactly.
Right. So what was I going to say? So this then leads up to RoboCop going to Dick Jones to try to arrest him. He's very confidently striding there, and you got Jones. He just knows he's coming. He's got him tracked again. That's another sort of thing, like a GPS sort of tracker.
That's right. Yeah, a little sat nav almost.
And then he's sort of very smarmy and confident because he knows something that. I mean, we get it early on, don't we? We get when
we know there's a Directive 4 that's classified.
So we know that something's amiss.
But I'd forgotten about it up to this point, which is why it was more effective as well when it kicks in.
And then so that's revealed that he has the upper hand.
And what is Directive 4?
Note that he cannot arrest any
Senior.
OCP operative.
Right.
So as soon as he tried to arrest him, that's when it kicks in, and he sort of
always build a little back door. That's what they say about software developers, isn't it? But build a little back door in so you've got an escape route if anything ever goes wrong.
This was something that Dick Jones did without Bob Morton knowing about. Obviously.
Very clever.
So
Very clever.
He was able to still ultimately get the upper hand. Anyway, and then you have this. Then it's the. I love the stop motion in this film. I mean, I love practical effects. Yeah. And
it was the same people who did Star Wars, didn't they?
That's right. It's Phil Tippett. He did Star Wars.
And also, what I quite liked is, I don't know if there's new versions of it now, but when I watched it on Amazon, it still felt like the original practical effects. Like, they have ruined Star Wars films in some ways by updating them all to digital,
exactly,
and remastering scenes and making it just doesn't
absolutely
it loses its effect, and it doesn't look so weird within the rest of the film looking dated.
Absolutely, but also I think the stop motion,
for sure,
the stop motion works particularly with robots because there's that element of it being slightly jerky.
That's how they're meant to be.
Exactly. So it works really well with them.
And hilarious that thing falls down the fucking floor, down the stairs. Absolutely brilliant.
And then responds like this big baby, passions like
squealing away. Yeah.
But before that, as they are battling, you get the first shot of RoboCop's eye. You see an eye.
Oh yeah, he gets a shot through the eye, doesn't he?
That's right.
Right, because it's shooting away a bit of the helmet.
I can't remember how, but yes,
he's like a bullet hole almost into his eye.
So it must have been something like that, and you see his eye look out, and again, that's a further sort of reminder that there's a
human behind there.
There's humanity there. Yeah.
Yes, a little fractured piece of his humanity coming back into play. Who he really is.
Yeah, which I really liked. So the next scene is when he tries to escape, but he's got he's shot at by a whole squad of these are not police officers. They're sort of like a SWAT team or something like that.
Oh yes, yeah.
And then he does manage to escape. Lewis manages to rescue him and then you have that's a scene afterwards where he's
They're both in that sort of like abandoned warehouse.
Well, the abandoned warehouse. You know that location.
Is that where he was? Where he was shot?
That is exactly. That is the
Brilliant.
same location. So I think it's important to have that as the same location because he's coming back to the origin,
Full circle.
the origin of his trauma.
Of his trauma, to face it, confront
Exactly. Yeah.
Rebirth in that moment, and fitting that's where he removes his helmet.
Yes.
To sort of regain
Yes.
you're right. The final piece. This is who I am.
When he takes off the helmet, how do you respond to that? And the dialogue, the conversation he has with Lewis at that point.
The most striking moment from that I remember isn't necessarily about him acknowledging what he looks like or anything like that. It's about him talking about his wife and child and him saying, "I can feel them, but I can't remember them."
Yeah.
That's a great
so
line.
It's sad. There's
Very, very sad.
There's an emotional core to this film, which I think separates it out from other sort of sci-fi.
It's the emotional parts of this film that you forget as well. You forget about all of this within the gore and all that happens.
Yeah, it's true. As I look back on RoboCop, had I not
even
had
now, I only
this
watched
watch,
it this morning, but
yeah, but it is true when you think of RoboCop, the things that stand out in memory from years gone by is exactly that: the violence, the idea of this man in a robot. It's less that human factor, but it's that human factor that I enjoyed most of all.
Yeah.
If anything, I would have liked to have seen. I had a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
In favour of maybe some of the cutaways to the news anchor team throughout, or something like that, or maybe a little less time with Morton or the boardroom folks, just to have a little more time, particularly between Murphy and Lewis, because they have great chemistry as a partnership, and I would like to see maybe one or two more scenes there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
what's
Right.
RoboCop 2 then?
No. But what were you asked that question then, Jamie? Is there something in that scene when he takes the helmet off that strikes
I
you?
agree. Yeah, that's the same sort of point I was going to raise. But I would also maybe say, again, it's like when he looks at himself for the first time in the mirror and he's sort of touching his face, and it's a poignant scene. And it's just it is where he is finally sort of coming to terms with the situation.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of the few quiet, reflective moments in the film. And I think it's really sort of powerful because of that.
Yeah, you're right. It reinforces a little bit of empathy and sympathy for him before the big showdown as well, because it reminds you that there is that human there that you should be supporting and getting behind, and the fact that his automatic targeting is out ever so slightly reminds you that you need that human touch. You can't rely on robots for everything. You can't rely on automation and computers for everything. That human touch and someone else's human touch is sometimes needed. It's not just you.
One person.
You need someone else to help you. Because let's not forget, his rediscovery of himself isn't just his journey alone. She prompts him earlier when he's leaving the station. She's the one who calls him Murphy, which makes them all fucking furious. They say, what did you say to him? What did you say to him? How dare you? He's our property. He's a machine. Don't remind him of what he is.
Yeah, exactly. But that's another sort of key point. We say he's our property. He's a machine. So they wiped his memory, but they weren't able to fully erase the man, the
His
human,
soul or
the
whatever.
soul.
Yeah.
And it's the sort of the trauma that he goes through is needed to sort of connect him to his. That's what he uses that trauma to reconnect to his humanity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this is that quiet, reflective moment in so many films, so many genres that you have right before the big showdown.
Exactly, and this is the ultimate showdown, isn't it?
It is.
I
Yeah, it is.
just love this ending, and it's been all building up to this, and your hatred for this gang, or certainly when I was younger, your hatred for this gang, and you want a cathartic release.
Yeah, absolutely.
And And you get that, absolutely.
In spades. And the catharsis for me is absolutely in the humour of it as well, because it feels more satisfying to know they're dying in very funny ways. In graphic but funny ways. It makes it all the sweeter that I can laugh at their death, particularly your man who gets the toxic waste through the van that he's driving in, because it's funny before you see him. It's funny just that his van crashing into the toxic waste.
It's very Batman.
It
is very Batman.
And there's where it says toxic waste in big letters. It's fantastic. It is Batman, isn't it?
In some ways, this film is the most Arnie film that Arnie should be in this film in so many ways.
He was a.
They offered it him.
He did, exactly. He did.
Yeah, of
but
course.
why did he turn it down? Was it too similar to Terminator?
Can you imagine Arnie in that suit?
Oh no. It would have been like.
It'd almost been too. He's already almost like too robot-like as it is.
He has the voice for it, but
he does.
Peter Weller's voice is fantastic as RoboCop, though.
Oh, he's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Another thing that connects those two films together, Terminator and RoboCop, is Orion Pictures.
Oh yeah, those Orion logos.
I remember in the 80s.
Logos.
They do Blade Runners as well.
Yeah, they did do Blade Runners.
So.
Yeah, because that's
yeah.
the image right
like
before that
be.
landscape. Yes,
yeah.
it is. Yeah. So. For how good that final scene is there, I have forgotten exactly how Bodica dies. Now I remember.
We've already discussed
the face
it.
of. No, Bodica.
Yeah, we've already discussed it.
How does he die?
Spike in the neck.
Yes, exactly. The spike. I forgot about the spike because we talked about it. Because you kind of know, don't you? When you see Ray Wise up top, you know, because Lewis is on the floor. She's had her shots, but you know that she's got eyes on Ray Wise up the top. So you know. Well, I assumed she was going to shoot him, and he was going to dump all the stuff on Bodica. That's what I thought was going to happen instead of a RoboCop. But they let you have violence for all. Everyone gets hit in that fucking final showdown.
It's a brilliant scene. The editing. It's just such a good scene.
It is.
And this is something that Verhoeven wanted as well. He wanted RoboCop walking on water. That was his Christ reference. He wanted that, so he was clearly looking for that angle.
Excellent.
And so yeah, he's walking and saying, "I'm not going to arrest you anymore." Oh, wow, you're taking this rather serious, aren't you? And then he's looking up at Ray Wise, who's positioning them. It's so well done.
And he's cheering so much when he dumps all that stuff on him. He's cheering away, and you don't mind because you know that she's got the sights on him up top.
I got him, Clarence. I got him.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's brilliant. And then he's pinned down under all the girders and everything. Yeah. She's been shot down. And this line, how do you take this? She says, "I'm a mess," and he says, "Don't worry, they'll fix you."
They'll fix you. They fix everything.
They fix everything. That sarcasm from him,
definitely.
Don't worry, they'll take care of you, whatever you end up coming back as.
I think it's a very sort of cynical sort of response as well, isn't it? There's a sense of
Well, see, this is why you mustn't watch the sequel as well, Adam, because there's almost a play in your back of your mind here that could lead you to believe that maybe that company will do some sort of robotic work on her, but in the sequel, she's just back, fully human.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it just the same film, kind of again, just more of it and not as good?
There was a suggestion there. That's a good point. There was a suggestion that Lewis may have been. Yeah, reconstructed to an extent herself.
Because they filmed a sort of extended ending where after he leaves the boardroom, he goes to the hospital, I believe.
Oh, I didn't
in
know
hospital
that.
recovering. But then they cut it because Verhoeven said no, that there's no way because this is going to take away the impact of him.
Which is a good choice. But is that available as a deleted scene, or is it just?
I have never seen it. I only read that it's out there. Or maybe it was just posited and never filmed.
Right.
But either way, that would have taken away from what is the second most memorable scene in the film for me, which is this final boardroom scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is satisfying on a million levels.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. I should have mentioned this earlier. when I was talking about the film earlier. I remember playing a RoboCop computer game with my brother. And
what was it on?
This is on Atari.
Oh, okay. I had the Mega Drive one.
Atari ST 520.
Right.
And it was a pretty good game, but it was easy to complete. And the very final scene is this a shootout scene with Dick Jones. But it didn't matter where. So you have this sort of this character sort of scrolling across the screen, and you've got the target, and you have to sort of try and shoot him. I think you had to shoot him 3 times or something like that. But it didn't matter where on the screen you shot him for the final time. He would still fly through the same hole.
Brilliant.
In the centre. So if you got him, I would always try to shoot him when I got sort of really confident.
In a different angle to send him elsewhere.
So do to the far extreme and just see him flying.
Old-fashioned video game logic. Whichever way you cut it, I'm going out that hole.
So funny.
Did they do the bit of him falling off the building or not?
You just see him. You don't see him falling down, but you just see him sort of,
fly out.
Yeah, going through the window.
I love Bob Morton's colleague from earlier who is just loving the fact that RoboCop has shot him out the window, because even before the thumbs up, as he's getting shot, he stands up and he's got a big smile on his face.
Yeah.
The people in that boardroom love a bit of violence. It's just day to day for them. It really is life in the big city for them.
Yeah.
Just another day.
You've actually reminded, again, it's something I should have said before. I'm really annoyed about this. In the Ed 209 scene, when Kinney is about to get killed, you have all the other characters pushing him into the line of fire. He's trying to get out. He's trying to get out, and Ed 209
they don't want to get shot themselves, eh?
Yeah, I know, but surely the thing to do is to escort him out of the room. There's a door.
But then Ed might have followed him round.
Yeah, you would say, run the fuck out of that door.
Yeah,
we'll go
out,
over here. You get over there now.
Yeah. But then
Panic,
you
though,
see
isn't
them
it?
all pushing him in front of even the women pushing. Oh, you!
It's true.
Self-serving. Cunts.
But yeah, absolutely. And the final line with the old man saying, what does he say? Some good shooting, son. What's your name?
Good shooting, son. What's your name? Murphy.
And that turn, Murphy, with a little smile on his face, stepping out of frame. The theme song Sting and RoboCop coming up on screen. They don't make them like that anymore. You don't normally get the title card right at the end these days, I tell you that.
It's a great, one of the last great lines of cinema, probably, is way.
It is.
It absolutely. It's brilliant. Love it.
Just bam, we're done.
But just like I said at the beginning, the old man does not get his comeuppance. Yes, we haven't seen him involved in all these criminal endeavours, but he's totally a capitalist whore, and one that we're not supposed to respect or admire.
That is a good point. And so the end of the film, makes him look as if he is,
sort of like the benevolent grandfather of the company who could do no wrong, really. He was just being directed by his executives. He didn't know. He knew. And he is in the second film, but I've blanched it from my memory, and I can't remember what happens.
So have I.
And that, in all its glory, was RoboCop.
Dun 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 dun.
If anything, that sting should have been used 1 or 2 more times.
Yeah, I love it. Brilliant.
It's a great sting. I'm just checking my notes here to see if there's anything that I wanted to mention that I haven't mentioned.
I shall do the same.
Yeah, I hinted at it at the beginning, but I guess my only sort of general thematic outstanding point about it that I read into it and appreciated was this idea of he was a man, then his sacrifice was that he gave his life over to become the ultimate employee member of the workforce, this police force where loads of them want to go out on strike and whatnot, and there's multiple talks of strike. So it made me really think about this compromise that we make as workers, some of us, not everyone, where we can't give our all to our home life because we're so overworked, but then equally when we're at work and we're so overworked, we're thinking about our home life and we're not giving all to work. And it's that balance that he finds at the end where finally, okay, I am this RoboCop, but I am also this human, I am this man. I've balanced it out perfectly. And I think that is all these references to strikes throughout it's kind of what everyone is aspiring to. It's like, we're humans at the end of the day. We will work. We know we need to work, but we're humans, and don't forget that we're humans. We're not just these lemmings that are going to follow orders regardless.
Absolutely. I think there's also another sort of comment or suggested comment about privatization and governments taking over, a government or corporations taking over, owning something, and sort of in many ways OCP, they own Murphy or RoboCop. He is their property. So something that is, so he loses all sense of ownership.
Almost like a Facebook type scenario as well, where, okay, we are ourselves, but Facebook, if we give them our information, well, they own it. This is ours now, and we'll do with your name
what we please.
Mm-hmm.
When what do you call it? When the website's free, you're the product or something like that, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. When the website's free, you are the product. Exactly. Oh, he was very well ahead of his time. Well, I got to say, I am intrigued to hear scores.
I'm also intrigued to see if I've been of any influence to you, gents.
I think we know what Jamie's is, so we'll probably literally... Well, what do you want to go
let's have Jamie out again, I think.
I'll start because it's obvious that this is a 10 for me.
Where does it fit in your all-time films? Because it sounds like it should be high up in that, even not even just like a 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
it does feel like a personal love.
It is a personal film, and I think probably I need to go through the list again and sort of. To be honest, it's a film I thought, I really want to speak about this film.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it previously had featured in my sort of top 10, but I'm sure it is in my top 10. I just haven't really given it the thought it needs. So I will give that thought. It's a 10 all the way for me.
Okay.
It's a very brave thing to talk about a 10 out of 10 film that you love so much, because it's I've said this to you before. It's one of the things that I find incredibly hard, something that I love so much, to come on this sort of platform and talk about it and talk to people who probably don't share that view, and know that no matter what I say, I'm probably not going to be able to convince them to think the way that I do, because film reactions can be so subjective regardless of the quality of the film. A lot of it is down to you, time of life, way you watched it, the way it makes you feel personally. So kudos to you to doing it, and also shout out to a previous episode that you were on where I know another of our people, Paul, had to talk about a film which he absolutely adores, burn after reading, and had to listen to two of his co-hosts tear into him. Brave for him.
I feel like
it's hard,
the problem is,
very
though,
hard.
Ben, is the way that Jamie spoke about this film is about how he loves it. He's not trying to convince you to love it.
No,
he's talking about how he loves it.
That's
and
it. Just
almost
you
can't almost argue any of the points he ever spoke about, because
Absolutely.
they're not really points on the film. They're points, but if that makes sense, you're not putting an argument on the film. You're
to answer what you said about that it's brave of me. I think as a film studies teacher, I've shown so many films that have been personal to me and have had negative responses to that. I'm just immune to it, to be honest.
You've built a wall up.
I'm so to be honest, you could have hated this film, I still would have loved talking about it. So it doesn't matter.
Sometimes that's even better. When I love a film and someone tells me they absolutely hate it, I'm like, good. I'm so glad.
Yeah, bring it
makes
on.
It makes me feel so right.
I know what I want. I know what I like.
Shall I go next with my score?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it was, prior to the rewatch a few days ago, a 7, historically a 7.
Yeah.
Watching it the other day, it was an 8, a clear 8, not even a close 8. It was like, no, this is a great film. I took the most out of it.
Good.
Everything is about experience and encounters and talking to people, and film is an art form, but it's there to be discussed and talked about, and it should be communal, and we should be able to discuss.
Jamie's currently hiding his face.
I had a bunch of negative points to bring up here, and I haven't brought them all up because the stuff that we have talked about is so much bigger and so much more important and so much more interesting and fascinating than some of the negatives, which has made me realize that my list of good things had a bunch of blind spots in it. I should have been including a bunch of things that came up organically in our conversation, which I was already thinking anyway. Okay. So, given your passion for it, given the bright, lively discussion we've had, and given how good I do actually feel talking about this film, I'm moving it up. It's a 9 out of 10. That's my final score. You've done it. You have done it. And honestly, Jamie, I was not planning on doing that. Even when you said it, I was like, I'm sorry, it's just not going to move. It isn't going to move. But it's an excellent film. It's not a perfect film, but it is an excellent film. And there goes the fidget spinner in celebration. Come on, Adam. Let's see.
So when I originally watched this film, I gave it an 8 out of 10. And when I started watching it, I was like, yeah, it's one of those films I gave it out of 10, but I feel like over years your opinion on film changes so much, so you're almost kind of going in with a fresh start. You used to been back in the day when you probably gave everything an 8 out of 10 when you know you're not really watched. And I was watching it and I was thinking, yeah, it's okay. It's not as good as I remember it. But by the end of it, it all started to click into pace, and I remembered why. It's still an 8 out of 10 for me, Jamie. I appreciate your passion.
That's fair.
I appreciate your passion, your love for it, but it is an 8 out of 10. It's a very solid 8 for me. Very right at the bang in the middle kind of 8s. And yeah, I mean but this film means, in my opinion, from this film doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Of course it does.
Well, but it's never gonna. Yours is the opinion that matters.
Well, I've still got some time to work on you. I'll at some point I'll get you to push it up to 9. I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, we've gone from Burnout of Reading, which was I think I gave it a 6, to Vanishing, which was a 7, and now
You're going up. Absolutely.
You're going up. That is true.
I'm going to think very carefully about my next choice.
I know. Can you select a 10? I do think that as I'm getting older, I'm finding that the films that I'm watching now that I watched a decade ago, I'm being not more harsh on, much kinder to. And I think maybe I was watching them at a point in my life where I just wasn't ready for it for whatever reason,
films
or I
all
wasn't
about
ready
love
to look
and
at it.
celebration, though. The grand end of it,
They
you
are.
want to find films you love, and you want to find good in a film rather than bad in a film.
Context is everything, really.
It is.
You always look to find good in a film rather than bad in a film.
Yeah. So this is going to hit very, very high. Obviously, we don't have Paul's score yet. So once Paul has watched it, Paul's score will be built into our average. But, boys, I can confirm that with Jamie's 10 and my 9 and Adam's 8, we average at a 9 out of 10. Which means...
high. There's not a lot of films in that bracket either.
There's not a lot of films. There's 10 films. So immediately, this is going to go up into at least our top 11 of all time.
Brilliant.
Even if it's for a short-lived period of time, Jamie, it will live there. So
Paul comes along with his 5.
Paul, please don't let me down.
Maybe you should wait for Paul to come out of COVID isolation when he's probably a little less grumpy.
Yes, I agree.
Adam, I'm just going to say now, because the bottom 9 is Once Upon a Time in Miami. You and I both gave that a 9, so RoboCop can't go above it until we know what Paul gives it. So...
Okay. We'll just
that
leave it
means
yeah.
that's exactly where it sits. So, for listeners who want to know exactly where RoboCop currently sits, it sits one spot outside the top 10. It's in the top 20, which is what we consider our all-timers. It sits at number 11, pushing down...
That is so high.
Pushing down 3 Billboards, our second ever recorded episode, which was sitting pretty for so long. Goes above 3 Billboards, 1 below One Night in Miami, and just so you know... what tops RoboCop above that? Number 9, Face Off. Number 8, Mulholland Drive. Number 7, Casino. Number 6, Joker. Number 5, Cinema Paradiso. Number 4, Home Alone 2. Number 3, Home Alone. Number 2, Whiplash. Number 1, our new reigning champ, The Irishman. But is there a twist in the tale? Because Jamie has the opportunity to throw a score to one of our existing films.
Will I just give you a little teaser to say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
My choice will be one of those films in the top 10. Whether it's going to go up or down, you will find out shortly.
Well, the funny thing is, if something goes down, that could bring RoboCop up into...
I feel like with Paul watching this film, it would beat One Night in Miami, but it's not going to beat Face Off for Paul.
I would be stunned if it beat Face Off, but if he gave it a 10, which he may well do, Face Off is a 10 for him, so it would move above Face Off anyway, because it would go above an average of 9, and it would go up to 9.3.
Okay.
And then it would be between that and Joker. But these are so many variables.
And again, I don't feel like it would beat Joker, but yeah.
I never know. So, well, as we did kind of tease there, this is the moment. You heard the rankings, everyone. Jamie, as a patron, as a
Jamie's
guest on the
slowly
show,
moving away from his camera. He's always.
I know.
He's looking
Is he
very
scared?
sheepish.
Is he going to take a hit at something beloved? Well, all of these films in
All
our
I
top
remember
10 are
said, I
beloved.
just said something about let's love film and let's celebrate film.
I could be instinctive and choose a film that will ultimately move RoboCop further up, but I'm thinking, should I really
Then
do
it'd be fair.
it wouldn't be fair to do that, I don't think.
Listen, if you want to choose chaos, you can choose
No,
chaos.
I think that's. I'm going
He's
to. I'm
woke
going
up
to
and chosen
stick with my
violence.
original choice.
At 10 o'clock at
I'm
night.
going to
Okay.
stick. I'm going to stick to my original choice. I think that's only fair. I don't
Okay.
generally like to demote. I'm much more into promotion.
Yeah.
God.
And Ben, this is going to really please you, I think. I'm going to give a 10 to Mulholland Drive.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Jesus. This is new. This is new information I was not expecting. I'm so glad you give that
I
10,
wasn't
Jamie.
expecting you to go for Mulholland Drive out of all those films.
I am so glad.
That's the one that.
Mulholland Drive is also one of those films I forget about how high it's gone.
Yeah, as it rightly should. This is fantastic, Jamie. Right. Let me do a bit of
And
maths
I
here.
must admit, a little bit of promotion for you guys here. It was greatly enhanced by listening to your podcast afterwards as well.
Oh, bless you.
It is definitely the film I think about most when I think about the podcast. Knowing Ben's knowledge on it and discussing that.
Yeah,
you
it
can't
was-
watch that film and not discuss it.
I just listened to the podcast straight away afterwards, and then yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
Perfect.
good to know. That is one of the. I would say that is one of the few episodes where we really did try and analyze everything. And when it's Lynch, that's so hard to do. But I feel satisfied with our efforts with it anyway. So I got news for you with that. It gives a unique score, a score that we have not had before at all.
We shouldn't, because it'd be divided by 4, not 3.
Exactly. So this averages in at 9.25. So everyone, not a new entry in the top 10. It was already in the top 10. It's gone higher. So do you want to hear our new top 10 in order?
Does it
Yes,
go to a
please.
9.3 though?
No, it doesn't go to a 9.3.
Okay.
It goes to Paul likes to round up, so it does go to a 9. It's a 9.25, so it does go to a 9.3.
Yeah.
But the existing 9.3 has a 9.33, so it goes below that. So here is the new top 10. Number 10. So One Night in Miami's out.
Oh,
RoboCop's below that. Number 10, Face Off. Number 9, Casino. Number 8, Mulholland Drive. So what it's done is it has flipped position with Casino. Previously, it was one below Casino. It has jumped above Casino. It's on a 9.25. Joker's on a 9.3. So Joker
How do you
sits
feel
above.
about that, Ben?
I'm absolutely, of course, Joker.
They were too big
Paul's
hitters.
well,
influence.
another.
No, I'm talking
another,
about the Casino Mulholland Drive flip.
That's totally fine.
an-
I agree with that.
Another connection for me is that your Casino episode was the very first one that I listened to.
Was it?
It was
Wow, look at that.
nearly a couple of years ago now.
Why
Amazing.
did you? Was it just because that's the one we released when you found us, or
It was.
Was it Paul?
it was
Paul reached out, didn't he?
Paul, yeah, absolutely. So I put a Goodfellas review up, and Paul said, "Hey, I agree with the opinions. We've just done the podcast on it. Compare because I think I did a sort of comparative
Casino
comment with,
comparison.
Casino, yeah. And then I listened to you guys, and
Amazing. Everything comes full circle. Well, and now you have a film that you've brought to us, and you've wedged it in there just a couple spots below both of those. That's a beautiful thing. We've there's been a lot of changing and arranging in our top 10 over the last week or so.
Yeah.
Whiplash and
Exciting.
Irishman
when
swap places.
when Paul gets back, sorry, we'll have a proper. I feel like we need to sit down and let it settle almost.
Yeah, we just
There's a
need
lot of
to
dust in the air at the moment.
jig where that is. But there we go. So what that also does, and let us salute a fine film which is about to drop out of our top 20 because of the addition of RoboCop. We'll all be sorry to see it go. It's a very crucial episode in our history. We lose Holy Motors from the top 20.
Oh,
It's gone. But that's because of the credentials of RoboCop. Paul may suddenly resurrect Holy Motors, depending on his rating when it comes.
I'm gutted about that. Because you know what?
Jamie.
You know what I think about Holy Motors.
Exactly. And look, all of these things that are so significant for you
Yeah.
have now rejigged.
Oh, that's
There we go.
Bittersweet.
So Holy Motors is out. Halloween 2018 is now on the precipice in that top 20 spot.
Ooh.
But will it change again once Paul watches? We will find out very soon. So that was the scores on the doors, and we very much hope you enjoyed the RoboCop episode. We're about to slightly switch focus now, and before we close doors, we are going to have a quick chat. Well, not a quick chat. We're going to hear from our patrons and what they've been watching recently. Jamie, we will save you for last since we have you with us, if that's okay.
Fine.
All right, guys. So we're going to cut over to our patrons to hear what they have been watching recently, what they liked and what they didn't like. First up, Sean Panda Nicholson. And he says... Oh, first of all, he says, yes, can't wait for this episode in this round. The year of my birth, 1987. Well, you've got 3 more coming from that year, Sean. That's not your favourite of 1987. Anyway, I think I watched my best film of 2021 the other night, and that is the visceral and disturbing Titan. A glorious body horror that genuinely both disturbed and fascinated me. I will be scheduling in a rewatch as soon as I can. Adam, I know you watched that yesterday.
I watched that last night, yes.
We had a little chat about this. We won't go into spoilers, but...
Have you seen it yet, Jamie?
Oh, I can't wait to see it. I have been given access to a stream of it, but I really want to see it at the cinema. I really want to see it at the cinema.
Yeah, it would benefit from cinema.
Yeah.
There's, like, the soundscape is insane, and because it's so disorientating all the way through, if you can have an immersive experience, all the better for it. It's an incredible film. The least you know about it before going in, the better. He also says, I also got my superhero fix. It's a shame Paul's not here for this bit. By watching 2 of the greatest superhero films ever. Not debatable. Into the Spider-Verse and Batman vs. Superman. The former is a visual delight with a perfect story and love for the Spider-Man universe, and I am really excited for the sequel. The latter is simply in my top 3 superhero movies of all time. Batfleck is great as a miserable, battle-worn Batman, and Cavill's Superman is perfection. The visuals are stunning, and its long runtime flies by. Okay, Jesse Eisenberg should have reined it in a bit, but I think this is as close to perfection that a superhero film has got, and I will fight, alongside Paul, I'm guessing, anyone who says otherwise. I'm only joking, I won't fight. I will silently nod and reluctantly accept the other person's terrible opinion. Anyway, have a good one, you lovely podcasting dudes. The thing is, everyone's opinion is subjective. Everyone is right with their own opinion, but you are very wrong there, Sean.
I knew you were going to do that.
I will always remember the day Ben got sent to see Batman vs. Superman.
I'll never forget it.
Wasn't it when Jenny was away on holiday or something like that?
Jenny was away somewhere. It was early morning. It was like
and you were like, what
10:30.
should I go see? And he
I've
was
got
like,
nothing to
Batman
do.
vs. Superman, you'll love it.
It was one of the worst cinema screens as well.
Ben came out the most miserable man you've ever seen.
A dreadful experience. But very glad that you enjoyed it, Sean. Adam, what has Julio been watching?
Great on the other hand, though.
Which one is Into the Spider-Verse, the Sony animated one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is good. I enjoyed that.
And the new Spider-Man,
yes,
pretty
that was
decent
good
as well.
We won't talk about that one. Go on, Adam. What about Julio?
Next up, we have Julio. He says, I did it, guys. It was down to the wire, but I crammed of most of Jane's Champion's filmography into the last week of December, and she beat M. Night Shyamalan as the most watched director of 2021. Not all of her movies are a winner, though. I thought Sweetie was particularly unpleasant to watch, a comedy that I found pretty unfunny. On the other hand, The Portrait of the Lady was really good, even if you could feel the runtime. The top 3 remain Power of the Dog, Piano, and In the Cut. The only movie I've heard but I haven't watched yet is Holy Smoke, which features Kate Winslet and Harvey Keitel, but I plan to take care of that in this month. On the blockbuster side of the story, I love the new Spider-Man movie and I hated the new Matrix movie. The two sides of the same coin in a way. First of all, I watched Power of the Dog, and Ben said it to me before. I wouldn't like it, and I didn't like it. I found it quite boring and quite slow.
I mean, I liked it, but I thought it was quite boring and quite slow. But then I can't remember who I was saying this to, but when I went up to Norwich for Christmas to be with Jenny's folks, they really rated it, and they talked to me at length about why they thought it was good, and I appreciated what they said, and I could see why they liked it. And Jamie, I could see why you might like it as well. It just didn't. It was just too slow. It slow boiled for me too much. Yeah, it compromised the story. Julio, I'm not going to respond to the Matrix comment here because I saw that you wrote a long comment on the Patreon, which I haven't seen yet. But I can only imagine that is in response to the most recent episode where I called you out for liking fan service when it suits you. There's a war going on here about fan service, Julio, and it ain't over yet.
Julio is not the person you want to pick a war with either.
No. Thank you for firing back, though. Finally, before we get to Jamie, a late entry. You got in on time, Luke. Luke Human says, I got caught in the seasonal trap of watching parts of movies that were on TV while I was engaged in other activities, so saw 2/3 of tons of family films, such as Labyrinth, Back to the Future 3, and some particularly problematic carry-on movies, yes. Fortunately, there was still some time to fit in a couple of memorable watches. The Harder They Come turned out to be a real delight. Samuel directs the hell out of this, employing a flair for visual storytelling alongside wrangling a substantial cast of hugely talented actors. He borrows Spielbergian camera movement, Wright-esque needle drops, and Kubrickian framing to present a thoughtful yet exhilarating Western using colour in all the senses of the word to serve up a unique black perspective on an American cinematic obsession. All three of us have talked about The Harder They Come. None of us said it so eloquently.
I haven't really... Yeah, exactly. No one said it in the Luke Human way.
I know. Kubrickian. I'm going to start calling things Kubrickian. Even more memorable was Leo Carax's dreamlike cinematic opera Annette. Julio didn't like this. This is interesting. Absolutely at his mercy, we are confronted on a number of levels as Driver and Cotillard sing a heartbreaking tale of adult immaturity at the expense of a child. Driver completely kills his role as a self-absorbed comedian with no skills to handle the responsibilities of real life and selfless love, showing extensive range and demanding utter attention. Tons of cleverly rendered blending of theatre and cinema, accompanied by a bold and totally effective casting decision, make this an experience that those who are able to buy into it are sure to find a moving and powerful piece of work. Very interesting, because that's our man behind Holy Motors.
It is indeed, and I've watched it as well.
What did you think?
Funny enough, I saw Julio's review and I was close to not watching it.
Oh, really?
I thought, yeah, that doesn't sound good. But I watched it and I really enjoyed it. It's not Holy Motors level of enjoyment, but I think it's really good. There's some, and I agree with what Lucas said in his review there. I mean, there's some fantastic stuff in it.
There's only one thing for it. We have to watch it.
I would
be the final judge.
Definitely
We could decide who's wrong and right.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay, fantastic.
The casting,
you can't afford to annoy Julio anymore, though.
The casting choice he's referring to is really bold.
Yes, that's in inverted commas. So I was trying to understand why he put casting in inverted commas. But you have to see it. Okay, the intrigue's fantastic.
Really well at the end as well. That's all I'll say.
Amazing.
Can you afford to go to war with Julio anymore though at the moment, Ben?
Hey, it's Love and War. That's the name of Julio and my relationship. Love and War. All right, Jamie. What about you? What's been on your palette?
I'll just mention a couple of films. The first one, this is my first watch of 2022, and it was a film called Limbo. It's on Mubi. It's a Scottish writer and director, Ben Sharrock. And it's a film about a group of asylum seekers that are stuck on a Scottish island.
Yeah.
And that's just perfect for me, obviously, as someone who's brought up in a very sort of remote Scottish island. So a lot of the island humour, it really sort of struck a chord with me. Sean Panda Nicholson, who I'm sure will love this film as well. Living in similar circumstances. It's got a real sort of wry, offbeat sense of humour, which I really liked. But there's a couple of moments that really sort of, surprise you. And I don't want to, ruin it by any spoilers. But I gave it a 9. I think it's really worth checking out if you can. So yeah, that's my opinion of film Limbo.
It was at the London Film Festival, but
really?
I couldn't get it to fit into the schedule. But it was high up on my my wish list.
Yeah, it was great. Really loved that. And I saw the last Duel as well. I watched that last night.
I saw you check that in on Letterboxd. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was really good. There's the Rashomon-esque narrative, I think, really worked well. And I agree with you. I read your review that it sort of improves as it goes on, and that final perspective from Jodie's character, I think, was really important. But I like the way that each perspective has their sort of prejudiced sort of nuances to it. Which is that's it. That's their memory. That's what they take from it. Is it necessarily the true reflection of what happened? You don't really know.
Exactly, and that's what is interesting. Even if there is a true story, which I would assume it's quite clear which one is the true version of events.
The truest.
Even that, the truest. Exactly. You know that there's things in there that are, as with everyone's memories, slightly frayed in favour of themselves or someone that they don't particularly like. They're made to look worse off. I didn't realise that it was going to follow that sort of structure when I started watching the film, which is why I really didn't enjoy the first 30 to 40 because I just thought these are just reprehensible people, and I don't care. I don't care for this. The way they're behaving is just horrendous. This doesn't make sense. And what I consider to be the caricature acting, I think, kind of is intentional. Even though I do still criticise it, I think it is intentional because it needs to be able to fit various moulds, various different stories at a time. But I'm glad that Ridley's out there still making films like that, because it's not it's not perfection, but it's a good, solid film that I'm glad he's made and is out there that I could still imagine watching in another 10 years.
This is a 8. I think he's 80, or he must be close to 80.
Yeah, he's over 80.
He's over 80. It's an 80-odd-year-old man still, producing films like this during lockdown.
It's incredible.
During lockdown conditions, amazing.
Yeah. So if he wants to tell interviewers to fuck off, he can tell interviewers to fuck off.
That. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Ridders on the warpath. Loved it.
That is us. Is that you, Jamie?
That is me, yes.
Amazing. Thank you. So loads to add to your watch list there, folks. Right. We are on the back end of a mammoth recording. We seem to be doing a lot of mammoth recordings recently, but it's only natural when we have a guest. So, Jamie, thank you once again, as always, for the knowledge, the jokes, the company. Always a pleasure to have you on. And what a great film choice.
Thank you, gents. Always a pleasure.
One final thing to do.
We'll
one final order of business.
Here.
Yes. So I've been sitting on this. I have no idea what it says. This is a voice memo sent by Paul, since he can't be with us today. This is. We're going to find out live. This is
in the
his
magic
reveal.
edit. He's going to pop himself into this recording.
Are we going to give any predictions?
1987. Well, I don't want to, because I don't want to show my hand to what sort of films that I'm considering. But as far as a genre goes, I'm going to say horror.
Evil Dead 2.
Well, okay, there you go. Well, that's what I think he's going to pick. Are we ready? Here we go. Here is Paul speaking.
Hello, you beautiful men. I hope you had a wonderful episode. Thank you so much, Jamie, for filling in for me. I hope you did an absolutely beautiful job. I guess it's my time to decide what film we're doing next time. It is a 1987 film, of course, and just a bit of history. I found this film on just a random person's profile. I was just searching. I don't even follow them. But this was their number one film of all time, and it immediately interested me just because of how random this film was. It's basically a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and the ratings are so sporadic on the chart. Like, people rate it every rating under the sun, and it is 0.1 points higher than the Velocipasta. And the reason I say that is because this is also a B movie. It's actually a triple B movie, as these films got known as, from the director Andy Sidaris, for bombs, bullets, and babes. So that's the kind of thing we're going for. This is Hard Ticket to Hawaii. I cannot wait for this. I feel like this could be the Velocipasta of 2022, and I really hope it is. You can also watch this film on YouTube, absolutely free, because there's no copyright going for this film, apparently. No one cares that it's on YouTube, so if you want to see it, you can check it out there. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you next episode.
Jamie, it's on your watch list.
It is on my watch list. It is on my watch list.
Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
It's on my watch
I've
list.
not
I don't
heard
know
of this film.
how it's on my watch
Wow.
list.
Okay. Paul hasn't watched it either.
Well, this is fantastic. Well, this is exactly what we wanted. This is what, for the years to give us films that we maybe have never seen before. I got to say,
I know why it's on my watch list.
why is that?
There's a student in the same class as Kate Herron. In that same class, Jack Caulfield. The two of them. They were the standout students. He's rated as 5 with a love on it. So
Wow. Well,
and he knows his film.
listen, if that was a 21st century film, I would be taking against it immediately. But because it's in the 80s and it's sporadic, I'm
It looks like-
excited.
It looks like there's a whole series of films as well.
And
When
this
you
is
go down the
did he
bottom,
say
it's
this is the
related
first?
films. It looks like it's the second, actually.
So we're going to watch a seat. We're going to watch a seat. I hope we don't need to have seen the first one
I
to
don't
understand
think. I
this.
don't think it looks like.
I don't
kind of
I
film.
don't think so.
Go down.
Hard.
Go on it, Ben, and go to related on. They just
Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Well, Paul, your absence has been more than made up for with the bomb that
I
you've
think
dropped on us
this
here.
is a great choice. I had no idea this was coming.
So, for those who don't know, the IMDb description says, in Hawaii, an undercover DEA agent and her civilian friend stumble upon a drug trafficking operation and have to enlist the help of all their colleagues/friends to go after the vicious drug kingpin. It does look like a Velocipasta style thing, but if it's taking itself seriously as many films in the 80s did, it will be much more hilarious for it. Well, there you go. Hard Ticket to Hawaii coming up next
Wow.
on Filmbusters,
I
folks.
was not anticipating that.
I was not. I was
what
not.
a way
either.
this
Well.
year is going already.
There we go. We thought Evil Dead 2.
How far off
got-
were we? How far
Massively
It's a B movie kind of vibe.
Well, it is. Well, folks, there we go. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed the episode. It was our pleasure to be
We
here
did.
recording it for you. We had a lot of fun. Jamie, thank you once again, sir.
Thank you.
Until next time.
We'll see you in 6 rounds and 6 years' time.
Yes. And well, you've got to pick more wisely on this, aren't you? You've got to.
I'm
There's
good.
be a lot more coming into.
Very careful.
Not more wisely. I think that's a very mad way of putting that sentence. But you're gonna,
That is-
there's going to be a lot more factoring into your pick next time. isn't
Absolutely.
there?
I'm looking forward to it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Filmbusters.